And we're live. Welcome back to This Is Dunder Moose. Who is Dunder Moose? Is the one in the top corner. I am so excited for this show, guys. I can't even tell you. I have the patrons and the DM from the Battle Braunstein that we ran. When was this? Back in November, before I dropped off the face of the earth for a while. And Jeffro's been on a couple shows recently. He went on Gelatinous Rube and had a very candid conversation about game design and his ideas for this. And then he went on Rolling Bones with Ryan Howard and had another great conversation. So we're not going to retread that ground because it is, I feel like the mentality and the design has been well covered. But what I wanted to do was get the experience of what it was like to run this thing, to have this idea, and then just to have the dudes show up and run it. And then I want to get the input from everyone that took place. We may have to do a little, Jeffro, if you wouldn't mind just doing like a quick explainer of why we did this. Like what's been the problem with the Bro SR with these Braunstein events and why you thought this might solve it. And then, I mean, with a campaign, it's hard not to go into too much detail, right? But
I can do the less than 1 minute version. But,
all right, tee it up, bro. You got this.
The Bro SR framework with one-to-one time and patrons and the domain game integrating with everything else. It's a lot for a referee to take on. And the other factor is keeping everybody paying attention for a long period of time. If you can't wrap up your big Braunstein event in about 3 weeks, then you're going to run out of attention, and people are going to start disappearing on you, or they'll get slower and slower getting back to you. So the idea was, instead of having the Braunstein activity be sort of this ongoing tax upon a campaign, where the referee just gets more and more lax in holding it together. That we'll just throw a big party, do all our big Braunsteining stuff at one night, and focus on some domain level activity with the wargaming elements and some diplomacy elements. Just have a big blowout session that goes about 6 hours and see how much we can get done with that.
And it breaks the equilibrium that the campaign has kind of fallen into with the players, changes some of the lines on the map. The reason why we even mess with this Braunstein stuff, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, because everybody on this screen knows way more than me about it, but it is like this amazing dynamo for player interest and activity. It's fascinating, and it sucks you in. It is one of those things that you think about when you're not playing it. It's not like conventional RPG play where like everybody only plays when they get to the table. You as the DM have to remind them what was going on the last time you were playing. Oh yeah. And like, they don't play until they get there. The Braunstein is like, you're in the shower and you're like, oh crap, I could just assassinate the guy.
We're playing with world models that are where you have the different elements distributed through a group, and these things are acting independently rather than requiring everybody to play cooperatively only when the session is going.
And
tremendous difference. Fundamentally different type of gameplay.
It eats the DM because everyone gets so involved and the communication just over. You either have to go BDubs and just ignore people until you feel like it, or you try to keep up with it all and you flame out spectacularly. So, but before we get any farther, that was a taster of things to come. We have some business we need to take care of. I hope everyone has a beverage. I've got tea, and for you guys watching this as well as everybody on the panel right now, today is an auspicious day. Today is J.R.R. Tolkien's birthday, and so we are going to honor the man by toasting the professor. So if everyone could just stand up, and we'll just lift our glass and shout "the professor," and then we will have paid our homage. All right? 1, 2, 3. The professor. Rock on, gentlemen. Sorry for the crotch shots. That was a little something for the ladies. I think there's one lady that unfiltered ID. She's the one lady that watches.
Subscribe to his OnlyFans.
Yeah, I've been working at home all day. I had to check and make sure I actually had pants on.
Yeah. we appreciate your discretion, Dortle. All right, so let's go around. Let's go around the screen. I don't know if it looks the same on mine as everybody's. Like the Brady Bunch here. The next one on my left, the one wearing the heel get up. The one who actually won the entire year.
the champ.
2023 BroSR champ.
Go ahead, Mr. Robert Stevens.
Yeah,
Tell him who you are.
I'm Robert the Heel on Twitter. I guess my handle is at Saints of OHS. I run a blog site I just started because of these guys called Redheaded Gaming. I've been playing with the BroSR for since October a year now, and I've learned a lot from the guys, and I've been having a blast playing with them. And they're just great, and the BroSR is the way to play. And if you're not playing that way, you're not at my table.
Right, man. All right, and then next to you on my screen anyway is Edie. Is it Broders or Broaders?
Broders.
Broders. Edie Broders. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, you can call me Evan. So when was it? Spring of 2020, I think.
Oh wow.
Jeffro had out his. When did you put that mega thread about that kind of kicked off the BroSR, Jeffro?
Oh my gosh, that would have been sometime in 2020 was when that started.
Yeah, so like about 6 months after that was out, I exchanged probably a dozen messages with Jeffro, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this, and I wound up running for just absolute theater kids a 2-year BroSR style campaign using 5e. So like absolute suboptimal everything. And it just proved to me if there's a proof of concept for BroSR concepts, it's doing that. And like I ran into about 90% of the problems with the Braunstein game that Jeffro ran into, and I had a couple things I tried here and there, but if just one-to-one time and patrons makes so many things so much easier that it's just you can run anything so much better.
I really wish there was a way to make 5e work, because that's where like the overwhelming audience is, right?
I think if you could fix 5e's combat, it would be a lot easier. I ran mass scale combats. I did everything. The entire bottleneck was the standard combat round. It's just so like if you're going if you scale it up 1 to 10, like does the entire unit get an action, a bonus action, and a reaction? Yes.
Ugh.
But I mean it goes a lot faster, and with that it's easier to force initiative by side once you've scaled up 10 to 1.
Rock on, man.
Yep. And I did use some concepts from what were those terrible mass combat things that came out like late in 1E that I talked to Jeffro about them a bunch and tried them.
Battle something or other?
Battle something or other.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. Which some of were not I say terrible, they weren't terrible, but they just weren't as easy as just scale everything up and use 1E rules. But yeah. That's me.
Right on. All right, next on my screen is not John Dacre, the douche of Earl himself.
Yes, just like real life, I'm a giant douche. I run a game on Saturday evenings. I've been playing Axe for about 4 years with a small group of players, and right now we're in Florida, long Florida, as it were. But
long Florida.
Yes, I found some silly map online that shows Florida going all the way from Florida down into Mexico. I thought it was so silly and so ridiculous. I'm like, I'm using this map.
That's one well hung United States.
It really is.
See, the problem is I'm from Michigan, so like people are used to like pointing where they live on their hand. And I'm like, oh crap, a lot of them retire down there. What do they start doing when they get to Florida?
Well, I noticed you mentioned the
from
hand.
Naples, is it?
What about the Upper Peninsula? Is there anything up there other than Bigfoot?
You can do another hand for that. They make good fudge. They call us trolls because we live under the bridge, and they also call us fudge suckers because that's what we buy when we go up there.
I thought you could just pick Upers out by the accent anyway.
Yeah, go to uber.com and you can just ride right on up there. I'm sorry, I don't mean to step on your thing there, John.
Oh no, and so yeah, I was the leader of Douchelandia for this event, and I've been on and off in various games. Jeffro has seen me fail more than just about anybody other than my ex-wife.
You want to talk about people that I'm absolutely cruel to? I killed him the same way twice.
I was there. Now, to be fair, he always has to touch the thing. He always grabs it.
No, but I put in the Hawaiian shirt and I knew it would be the death.
You know my weaknesses.
Oh,
You're
man.
massively underselling this axe game. Just do you have a blog, right, Dacre?
I haven't updated it in a while because for some reason I can't get back into it.
No,
You put in some hilarious stuff into this Long Florida campaign.
no, it's genius. He's one of the underappreciated dungeon masters of the entire internet. It's amazing. This is the most demented campaign. I wish my campaign was half as demented as his campaign.
All right, well, guys, as you're sharing these, be putting your links in the chat so that people can check it out. Redheaded Gaming was mentioned. Evan, did you have one?
All I have is my Twitter.
Okay.
Just go search like any of these guys as mutual follows for ED
Right on.
Brothers.
And yeah, let's get that Long Florida link in there as well.
Okay, I'll see if I can find it. Hold on.
Yeah, you guys are putting it in the private chat.
Yeah, you need to put it in the comment section so the world can see. I already know all this stuff.
I gotta link my YouTube.
I was gonna make you do it.
Yeah. I'll get someone else talking and then I can copy and paste. All right. So next on my screen, Cronan, the orc, also known as Aaron Holder. Aaron, you want to tell us about how you got into this whole crazy biz, yo?
Got him.
Yeah. He's just this random orc. I went out into the streets. I was like, look, I need somebody to play my game. And there was this orc in the gutter. He was like drunk. He was
Freaking
he had,
sign
like,
saying "will kill."
Oh,
for
you need some chaos, do you? I can bring a little bit of that around. But, yeah, no, I've been a spectator. I'm a serial lurker in any fucking place I've been. I've like the number of posts that I've ever posted on the internet's got to be in the double digits, like max. But I've been lurking, following along with. I think I found Dubs first, and then on Twitter, and then from there fell down the chain, found Jeffro, and I came to D&D in college. Found it, like I said, it was more of a cultural meme to me than anything. Never knew anybody who played it, and so we played this abomination of a 5e campaign, and it's taken on later when I moved across the country. Found a group that I've been playing with now for I think it's coming up on 6 years, every
Wow.
Sunday. So several different DMs rotating through, different experiences, all kind of modified 5e campaigns, and playing with really inventive people and really kind of the caliber of people who tend to be attracted to the Bro SR stuff. I tend to find like that was the funniest thing about this whole as much as demented as it all is and as crazy as it all is, when people all take it the appropriate level of seriously, if that makes sense. Like you take it seriously, in that me coming in without as much experience in anything other than 5e and my like Frankensteinian monster of it that I run now with some 4e chunks and some 3e chunks and some 2e chunks that I've gone back and I've discovered. Like I run by-side combat even in small scale combat in 5e now. It's fantastic. Allows for all kinds of a lot. It just fixes a lot of issues with the game, especially with speed and people paying attention, because you're just like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? You just go down the line and everybody does it. So who's standing at the end of the round? But anyway, found all this, just literally threw my hat in as a lark because I had this character that is just one of my characters in my head of Cronin de Cunnin. And he said, yeah, sure, fuck it, like show up. And so I did. And it was amazing, dude. Rolled up what was going on, was showing a map. Here you are. And here's this giant city, and here's the douche kingdom, and here's the knife ears in the woods, and this
You were my
shady
only
assassin
ally.
place over there. Yep, and I was like, yeah, you're the bad guy's ally, and I was like, awesome. So it spiraled out of control almost immediately, but it was amazing.
Well, you touched on something that I think is fascinating about this group of people. You said they take the game seriously, and that's true of everything I've seen in the Bro SR. And people get confused because we take the game seriously, but we don't necessarily take ourselves seriously. We take the game seriously, but we don't necessarily take our characters seriously.
Yeah, every other RPG table is the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever run into a campaign where I could actually argue for the emotional impact of the charge of the douche brigade at the red check. Like I could never foretell that. That was not in my crystal ball at all. But like what I mean by that is that scenario, whatever that conjures in your mind, happened because everybody at the table fully took the rules seriously, and I had the freedom of somebody who didn't, to know that I could just throw shit out there and people would cut me back and say, hey, no, this is how that would work, or that's not going to work, and here's why. Like, and so because of the restriction of the rules, without paint and canvas and lines of scale and such, you don't make beautiful art that lasts the generations, man. And I think this is the kind of stuff that people are going to be wanting to play, especially as they realize that they're not all Matt Mercers and voice actors, and that they can't recreate that kind of cinematic experience that they're getting, or that has been popularized for D&D, that's brought a lot of people into it.
Right on. Jeffro, how did you get into this whole thing?
I was born a small black child.
So let me tell you what I've heard, and you tell me if I get it wrong. I heard you were bullied into trying first edition by a guy named Mephrodis.
Oh, that is true. That is absolutely true.
So were you like kind, nice, twinkle-eyed Jeffro online, and then Meph came in and like just gave you the business and turned you into this like voracious lion?
No, so I'd written Appendix N, and
Yes.
and of course, it's about a piece of AD&D, and I'd never run AD&D, and I was in Seattle, actually hanging out with Brian Renninger, and we were talking about we're together. We should play Oriental Adventures, and there's posts about this on Castalia House. You can go back and look and see where I gave up. But at that time, it was like I saw something from Oriental Adventures, and I was like, oh, I understand AD&D combat now. You declare your actions before you roll initiative. This works everything out. I don't know what else. So I started digging into stuff, and like it was just overwhelming. Like everything that I took for granted in basic D&D that I knew how, I had to like start over as if I didn't know it. And of course, the way every part of the game, like you think you know it, and then you go back and look, and it turns out you didn't know it. And at that time, without the world shutting down as part of a massive, lockdown type thing, I didn't have any patience for it. So yeah, I was for a long time. I was the guy that was too chicken to run AD&D or not man enough to run AD&D. And it was first it was Mephrodis, posting all the bodybuilding pics. It's genuinely inspirational to aspire to do something that's hard. He really broke that ground, and it was really. But then seeing Sky Hernstrom, who's one of the world's best living fantasy authors, not kidding you. Watching him run AD&D, it was like, oh, no, if he can do it, I know he's ignoring 80% of the rules, but like if he can do it and everybody's going to like, treat him respectfully, then I'm sure everybody would respect me.
Yeah. You it's really funny because people on the outside, anytime you even mention the hashtag BroSR, and I caught some blocks, well, just one block really, one important block from my last video. They say, oh, you're in that cult. You're in that personality cult to Jeffro. And I'm like, man, has there ever been a personality cult where like the personality got as much abuse behind the curtain as this one? Like people just getting torqued off.
Oh, we're supposed to do that behind the curtain?
Yeah. Yes. It's a unified front when we come out. Like when, he's like cleaned all his mascara and, he can be the fearless leader. It's like, seriously. Come on.
That was my favorite thing was like somebody was like flaming me on Twitter and then like I think they started flaming Dubs or something. And they're like, somebody told him, it was like, yo, dude, it doesn't work. It doesn't work to do it like that. It's like, I was like, well, why not? It's like, look, everybody else in the Bro SR is meaner than Jeffro. He's the nice one. You can't shame them.
All right. Let's keep moving on. At the bottom of my screen, last but not least, is Dornall. And he was the elves in this encounter. Tell us how you got wrapped up in this whole biz.
In everything? Oh, so I do a live show called The Geek Gab. You can find it on YouTube. Links in the chat too. And I do that with Daddy Warpig. He and I, we met years and years and years ago playing Dungeons and Dragons. We love RPGs. And way back at the Castalia House days is when we interacted with Jeffro, had him on the show. I've been talking to him ever since. So that's how I was. That's how I got into the Bro SR. Sometime mid 2022, Daddy Warpig mentioned that the Trollopulous game was ongoing. At that time, Brian Renninger was the dungeon master. So I went and asked for an invite and got in, and I've been playing ever since. So that's my experience playing with the Bro SR, and now I'm a dungeon master in Trollopulous.
That's right.
Though I do mostly pitch in when either Macho Mandelf needs a break or everybody needs a break from Macho Mandelf.
Right on.
This event I just sort of dropped in sort of at the last minute, and Jeffro gave me a bunch of elves, and well, Jeffro likes to say that I was the one who had the least amount of fun at the event. I guess maybe we'll get to that later.
Right on. So there's two members that are not here. Macho's in the chat, but he's working right now. So boo.
On the other side of the disc,
when you're down under.
Down there.
Yeah. And then the other one is Brigadine, who he may have had less fun than Dornall did. And I know he's probably having less fun right now because he's got a bad cough and couldn't join us. I'm going to have him on another episode later because you guys need to talk. You need to hear from this guy. If anybody in my audience, if there's a chance that they aren't already in a campaign with him.
He's everywhere.
So that's how we all got into this, following along on this Bro SR thing. And for me, it was, oh, there he is in the chat. Hey, Brig. Yeah, for me, I never really played D&D growing up. came to it lately, and I was doing the 5e thing and trying to DM for a bunch of guys that just never could meet, and I felt like I was just way prepping, and they were on their phones, or when they did come, they couldn't remember what had happened, and it was so long between. And the thing that most people say is a problem was a thing that I immediately saw as a value, and that's, what if you have to end in the middle of a dungeon? And everyone says, well, you don't dare end in the middle of a dungeon unless you're John Dacre and you grab the snail shell and you have no choice. Right? But I like the idea that everyone goes back to camp, and then whoever shows up the next week, you just roll. You don't have to like massage people teleporting back and forth, or like just somebody turning just into a stupid follower because his player's not there to represent him and everyone else has to run him and stuff. So so that's how I got into this whole thing. I just basically posted on Twitter that playing in Trollopulous was on my gamer bucket list, and then next thing I know, Macho sent me a DM and was like, hey, here's a link, let's go play. It wasn't on Twitter any longer because Jeffro had been kicked off of Twitter for saying something. I think your horribly egregious comment was high fantasy is dumb. So I'm sorry if I just got our YouTube channel canceled by repeating that. But anyway, that started the Discord and stuff. So enough history, enough chip chat. Jeffro puts out the call, and you guys answered. How prepared were you? How prepared did you feel going in? How much did you know about the setting? And we'll start with Bob.
So I was extremely prepared. I was the only person whose player character became an actual, I guess, pseudo patron in the event. I leveled up from 1 to 3, and during this time I was
not
building
easy
this
in Mudcore D&D
no.
when I joined, right?
No, it was a surprise I made it that long. And like during downtime, I was just building this palisade, and I would get these, I guess, stragglers from Steddington that would come down, and we find out Steddington has some bad stuff going on. And my guy was left as a slave there, actually, for a period of time because I was with a party of non-humans. And I was able to get out. And with I got out with nothing, and there was like 10 guys with me, and we somehow made it with no encounters through the woods, and with just clubs that we had, sticks that we picked up, and basically I was like, well, I'm a human supremacist now because all these demi-humans betrayed me or whatever. So then there was which John can attest to, Garamond, he was doing the ORC, which I'll let him talk about a little later, but it was basically CRT with orcs. And well, as a human supremacist, we were very against it. And when I got back, he happened to be in jail for some shenanigans him and Dunder Moose were pulling off screen. So I took all this stuff from him and claimed it as my own. And that's when I started the palisade.
The stuff being the loot from the dungeon, which was a Naga hide couch, a water bubbler, and a jar of wheatback pennies.
Yes.
I don't even remember that was the treasure, and you do. That's kind of sick.
I only know that was the treasure because I was hired to get it back, but that was part of a secret deal we'll talk about later.
I earned that couch fair and square.
Well, and you were making good use of that couch to spread the half-work cause.
I'd like to point out that this is one of the best things about the BroSR is that we can tackle the most important, impactful real-world issues better than any theater kid or Critical Role fan could, while at the same time using Nagahide couches, loot, and Muppets as player characters. We're the best.
No, if you'd ever played like a Scott Adams Adventure International text adventure from the 70s with a 2-word parser, Like if you look at the treasures from the game Adventureland, they're just off the wall stuff. And if you get into especially Zork from Infocom, same deal. So
Wait, time out.
and then the humor in Brian Aldis's Hot House is the same thing. Like the treasures are dumb and funny, and the heroes interacting with the treasures. It's totally a laugh thing.
So you're telling me that the Naugahyde couch did not come out of Michael Moorcock or A.
No.
Merritt?
No, it was a Gamma World thing.
Okay.
If you've ever seen a treasure table, a D100 treasure table from a Gamma World module, it's that same vibe. And so, the idea of this little village sending people into the dungeon, and they're coming back with these treasures that they don't know what they are, but they're artifacts to them.
Yeah.
And
well, the space heater was like, by this space heater I rule, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's that's straight out of the Gamma World 3rd edition manuals, that you're going to trade artifacts for treasure. So it's nothing,
right. So Robert, what prep? Like, so you had the prep of knowing the character you were playing already, knowing his resources.
The area.
Did you create anything in preparing for this Braunstein, or had you already done the Palisade, or was that something you created for?
It was all done during my downtime. Everything I had prepared was all done by my character during downtime. So I was I knew what I had. I knew where I was. I knew I had an idea of where other people were because of playing the game. So I was probably, in that regard, probably the most well prepared, even though I had a small force.
So that's one of the things I want to bring out about one-to-one time, is that even if the DM is committed to it and the players understand it, there are some players that are going to make better use of that. I think Gary even tells us this, right? Like, your elite players are going to use time as a resource as well as the other things. And the ones maybe like this schmuck here who has to be reminded, oh yeah, your guy's free for downtime stuff. What are you going to do? It's like, oh yeah, okay. Obviously, I'm not going to have as many resources to draw on as someone who's making full use.
It was sad because like Helvetica and Garam, all the font themed characters would do all this stuff to, like, in character writing letters or drawing pictures for me or doing things. It's all this stuff that builds so much to the campaign. But it was completely ineffective from a strategic or a tactical standpoint, and he just kept losing. So it was sad, because, like, if we valued role playing, like then the font guys would have won.
So it sounds like you could also, in the hands of a more merciful DM, perhaps. You could use downtime to build plot armor for yourself, to where the DM's like, no, I want to see this thing pay off. Maybe I won't throw the worst monster I had at them. But one of the joys of no prep is you don't have to worry about that conscience at all. You're just like, well, you rolled 300 orcs. That's what you're fighting. You grabbed the shell and someone offhand mentioned it might be trapped. Guess what? All right. Oh, by the way, guys, if you have anything you want to share, any prep or anything that you created, you can click on the bottom of the screen and share it, and I'll add it to the screen so everyone can see. Anything else you want to say about your prep going into it, Bob?
It wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Mr. Wargaming, because which Roland Bones realized. He goes, yeah, I think I saw something with Mr. Wargame talking about building a palisade or whatever level. What that whole thing was inspired by him. I was like, I'm going to do this setting and see how it turns out, and it turned out for the best. So kudos to him.
That's good. Like, if you're listening to this playback right now, later, just pause the video on YouTube, go to Joy of Wargaming, watch all of his stuff, then come back.
Right.
Literally everything. Like you've got like 40 hours plus of Joy of Wargaming to go watch. So
That's a week,
But you'll
right? That's a
binge
work
it.
week.
you will bench it, but
So okay, that's kind of why I released the video that I did on the first of the year. It's because I feel like I get you guys on and we just immediately start talking. And exactly right, Jeffro. Like, how many people is this all just inside joke? I hope people are getting value out of this.
We can go more
Let's-
on the inside jokes. We haven't even
Well, I
gotten
can.
to.
And here's the
Bill
thing:
that
I can be
Guillermo
the
has done
voice
up
of the
there.
audience here because I know the least. I only had a couple of reports that I'd gotten to read about different shenanigans that had happened that I'd saw
Mhm.
crop up, you know. I don't live on X, Twitter, or whatever the hell it's called, but I would pop on mostly to check in on the Bro SR crew. And when I would, occasionally would find one, take the time, read it, and would honestly just find myself giggling to death about the death rosters at the end and the causes of
Oh
death
yeah.
and all of the shit that would happen. And so, like, I'll tell you, even not knowing, like, if we're just going to talk preparedness, I don't want to go out of order, but like, you can come into this knowing nothing, and these people will give you enough to work with if you have an imagination. But that is the one thing
Right
that
on.
people cannot bring to it. Like, they can't, you can't be handed an imagination. You have to have that to start with. And there's ways to develop it, right? It's like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the better it gets.
Well, a lot of times the player, like especially ones that aren't used to this style, they almost need either permission up front or an example. That once you see someone else doing it, then you're like, oh, this is possible. Oh, okay. So Evan, how about you? How did you get roped into the Battle Braunstein, and like what did you know going in, and what prep did you do to get ready for your role, and what was your role?
Okay, so I got roped in by sending Jeffro a DM after he put out a call for a couple extra patrons for a Battle Braunstein. And I did a bunch of prep, and then Jeffro promptly threw it all out. Because it wasn't super clear where we were going to be and what we were prepping. So
Yeah.
I prepped like
I was like, y'all, give me ideas. I need your help. Build this out. No, not that. Not like that.
basically, yeah.
Serve me up another one, Spike.
So yeah, but I wound up running Birkelberg, which I had no idea until I showed up. Oh, you're running Birkelberg. You're not running. You're running this guy, but he also runs Birkelberg. We didn't tell you that.
Oh, so you created a character,
Kind of created
and
a
then
character.
you were handed a setting.
And then I was handed a village slash village slash stronghold,
that little city was in the game all year.
and nobody touched it apparently.
Right. Nobody went there. Like Daddy Warpig was supposed to go there and get training, but then we got in a fight, and I made sure he was dead. So that was a big,
So I literally spent the first 90 minutes, 2 hours of the Battle Braunstein figuring out what the hell I was playing. Like, who am I? Where am I? What the fuck is going on?
The three towns were supposed to join together and overthrow the giants with the help of Doucheland and the dragons. Like, somehow that was supposed to happen, and that's completely what didn't happen.
And that might have been partly because of my prep. But so you had a character, and then you were given a setting. And I gotta say, like, these guys are exactly right. Foam the Gnome had planned on going to Birkelberg to train because he was an illusionist thief. And then, like, events transpired, which we need to have a whole other show to explain what all happened in that scenario. But he had to leave town pretty quickly. So Foam the betrayer. Never got to visit. I think the only one that actually knew anything about it was Snake Plissken which was Macho Mandoff's character, who was the assassin that was proficient with an arbalest, or was a ballista?
A ballista. He had it in a wagon, and he would
had a
ride it
wagon,
around.
and he was gonna straight up assassinate stuff with his ballista.
He's the giant slayer, dude.
That should have been my
It's
first warning
a
about
plan.
playing against Chris. Was that this guy? Nobody on this screen knows the rules like that man. Knows where
It's
they
true.
bend and where they can shatter. So okay, so did you get a map? Or was it
No,
on you
God,
to
no.
draw a map?
No map. There was no map.
No one got a map till
Where we're
posted
going,
on
we don't
that.
need maps.
There was a map circulated about 2 hours in, I think, but it was 2 hours.
Was there? I didn't see
Having
that.
a map would have ruined
Well, there was the
the
map of
whole
the
point.
entire region, which, by the way, you guys saw that for the first time when we, the players, did as well. We had no idea where Who Caresville was. No idea.
No, wait, I did draw a map for the event.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. You drew the map for the event. That was the first time all of us saw that.
Oh, yeah, we've been playing there for like 6 or 8 months.
Yeah,
And what do you need besides the town and the dungeon?
that's true.
Like that,
And a
place
place
to
to hide out when you betray the town.
You
Thief
just
trainers
you
for
just
one regret
barely
to
made
march
it
over to
to third
Burgleberg
level.
and get killed by orcs on the way instead of training.
Okay. Yeah,
Jethro.
let's take this stuff to Steddington. We'll sell it.
Yeah, come into my parlor, said the giant to the fly. All right. Anything else you want to say about, like, were you satisfied with the amount of information you got from Jeffro, or were you somewhat less than?
You know, I knew it was going to be pretty seat of the pants. I thought it was going to be a little less seat of the pants, but you know,
Same.
it was it definitely created fog of war.
Oh yeah,
You cannot deny that there was fog of war.
Well, but there were some people I was like, your prep is suck. I don't like it, and then they used it anyway. So it was like when the referee is like talking to people one at a time, all of that stuff that people make up, like they have a lot of power
yeah.
that they can abuse.
Well, we've talked before about players memeing things into existence, right? And I feel like this is an especially fraught situation where that can happen on a scale unseen in normal play.
like the wife of the giant setting up a scheme to buy off Doucheland with women.
Yes.
Fat girls.
Yes.
Like that was
I feel like I did
when
the
you're the
most
referee, and the players have been playing this for like 30 or 45 minutes and they're all excited about it. And then you have to decide, am I going to tell them this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, or am I just going to let this go?
All the best D&D stories come about because the DM says, "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Let's find out what happened."
True.
or I just don't have the emotional wherewithal to fight him on this now.
So Edie Broders, I'm sorry, you're just not as big of a punk as some of the other guys at the table, and that's your own fault.
Fair enough. Can't deny that.
Although he was instrumental in like the biggest surprise of the game.
There's value to riding under the table in an environment that tumultuous, especially with this dynamic. And like I was saying before, the fact that other people will kind of check you and will say, okay, well, like that's a cool idea and all, but like maybe this instead. Like I said, when people when the ultimate goal at everybody at the table is
No,
that's the dumbest idea. Let's see what happens, and the willingness to commit to it and to see what happens. Like
that's huge.
that's-
Somebody got into a big fight with us this week. I'm not even sure if it's an actual human being or not, but
I think it was someone
claim-
copy pasting from ChatGPT.
They claim that groups don't have a personality and groups don't experience things, and there is a group dynamic. There are ideas that fit with the group dynamic. There are ideas that sort of like you can tell if the group is with it or not, and it's not like an individual thing. It is a group. And when somebody sits down at the table, you don't know, like we don't know this Cronin guy, like how well is he going to fit in to what we've got going? We don't know. We don't even, and we can't explain it. We don't know what to tell him, So no, that's absolutely critical. And
the statement that groups can't experience things or whatever, it's just dripping with autism. Like, I mean, you can clearly be able to do that if you've been in a social situation, and it just sounds like eternally online gobbledygook to me.
Eternally online.
There's a lot of people. My money's on a millennial who only gets to play D&D when he hires a dungeon master on them. There's sites where you can just $15 a pop buy a game.
Dang, man. I got to learn how to DM this stuff.
Only DMs.
You have to run 5e though.
You have to run 5e.
Yeah.
But
Only GM.
$50. I'll do anything you want.
All right, now describe the cavern, but take your shirt off. It's a little dank. You think you see some lights in the background?
let's just say that the audience of the market for that is a lot different than our audience and market.
Oh, that kind of role play. Got it. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
What were you talking about?
We were about to ask
Preparedness.
John Daycare about his prep.
How prepared were we for?
For the
Dunder
ERP,
Moose
how prepared were
sabotaging
you?
his own
I want to
show.
know how prepared the douchelanders were. So how was
Yeah.
Saint Douche of Earl?
What did you do to get ready?
I walked into my closet, grabbed all of my clean polo shirts and a dirty one, put them all on, and sat down. That was my prep.
He's not lying. The man is not lying.
He was wearing like 6 polos.
Do we have the picture?
Oh.
I would prefer not to have my picture online.
Yeah, someone grabbed the one from the session report. It was pretty.
I have the Twitter thread that's here that I think might have it lower in the bellies of it. I don't know.
The 6 pop
It's in there
collars
somewhere.
definitely.
It's in the reports, but there's this triple popped collar representee. We'll say.
Some people, have like, what is it called? Like the dungeon ambiance app on their phone, and they can play the music to set the mood. And some people just show up in 3 popped collars, and everybody knows what's going on. So what did you know about? Because here's the thing, Jeffro, he didn't ask for us to do a bunch of prep. The only thing that you really asked us for is like, what faction do you want to play, and give me a force list, right?
Yeah.
So what did you do? Because you were like the big force for the good guys. You were the ones keeping the giants in check, protecting them from the smaller towns to the southeast.
I was just stupid. I don't know how else to describe.
No, but before this whole event, this does go back to Weasley a little bit, because like before this whole event, like we've got this imaginary world, an imaginary strategic situation, and we were joking around that time a few months ago. It was like Doucheland's the reason why the Giants haven't just come and killed everyone. Like we had to have because if they sent the Giants out.
It was Brigadine that memed it that it was Doucheland, right?
Yeah. We totally alienated an army with this joke of Doucheland, because
like the Weimar Republic.
They they thought that there was an NAZI in the group. No.
And it wasn't the human supremacist either. It was someone else.
No,
They trusted you, and they trusted foam.
and so like we just had that in our imagination, like how would all this work, and so for months, for weeks before this, I was like, because I needed a scenario, and the whole time I was like, yes, Deutschland is the key. Deutschland is the key. Deutschland is what's going to make all of this work, and then like, okay, I need somebody to play it, and then we got who we got. And that fundamentally, the person who's playing that faction completely changes the nature of the scenario. Just
Are you saying he was typecast? What are you implying, Jeffro?
Yeah, say it, Jeffro. Tell me what you really think.
Man, you are.
No,
harsh
it's
on your friend.
it would be very different game if Macho Mandolf had played Deutschland or if Brigadine had played Deutschland, right? I mean, I'm just saying that's just how it is.
I'm just kidding, man. I'm just putting you on the back foot. All right, so but you had because when you showed up to the Red Kegger,
No, what it meant was that the party game was going to be an even bigger party, which was perfect for the occasion. We've played games, with more of the wargaming and like second by second, where these troops are and what's going to happen when they get together. This game wasn't about that. This game was about first the diplomacy, and second the incredibly stupid situation that was going to emerge from all of these idiots operating independently under a fog of war. And for a party game, for a light party game, to get some laughs, that was exactly what we needed. So putting that, having Deutschland played by who got played it, it was what I was in the mood for. I didn't feel like some kind of like, high energy, tedious, moving. I think Eve Kaninen just told us this week that wargaming is really boring and unimaginative. Obviously, she's definitely right. We did it. We did wargaming without all that boring stuff.
you mounted pop collar douche cavalry. Man, that is such a cliche.
So boring. Like, oh,
There's only 3 stories. All right, but so your force list, did you come up with that, or did you just like ask and Jeffro kind of pared it down, or did you say I have no idea what I'm doing and he's like, fine, here's your army? Because you had nerds, you had pikemen, and you had mounted heavy cavalry, right?
The nerds, awesome.
Because I thought, what could be douchier than like an 80s like comedy movie college run by the frat guys?
Perfect.
So I developed I had this whole idea of like the upperclassmen were the heavy cavalry, the lower classmen were the pikemen, and the nerds were the wizards. Like, that's your force.
Perfect. It's so good. It's so creative. So just you got the cast of Revenge of the Nerds, and each one of them has 2 charges of magic missile. So, and they're just happy to be at the kegger.
That was obviously 10 times better than anything I was going to come up with. So look, after a while, you just start saying yes. I had to give him more. I was like, you don't have enough this. Make the nerd second level. And he's like, oh, okay.
Meanwhile,
So
I got to
good.
talk to 100 orcs. Jeez.
So good. All right. So, anything else you want to say before we move on to Aaron?
Not at this time.
All right, we'll get into the strategy and what like your first moves were and stuff on our next sweep of the radar. So Cronin, that's kind of a risk if he was a character that you already had and liked, right, Aaron? So you're like throwing him in this grist
Yeah,
mill.
this is literally just a this is just a character that was inspired by it was a memed character from a Warhammer fan fiction. That was just
Okay.
a concept of like, what if there was an orc that was Cronan the Barbarian? Like, what if he decided to be cunning and brutal instead of just brutal and cunning? And so, literally, I saw the clarion call, same as the others, and I said I would like to propose Cronan de Cunning's rowdy warband of orcs as a faction. He's risen to prominence due to his not being brutal and cunning, but cunning and brutal. He has discovered that Umi's fake real good and has grasped that power of thinking for himself. And
You
so
keep channeling him, man. He's gonna take you over.
The
yeah,
accent's
seriously, he
great.
does, because the thing about it, right, is it's a simple concept. Like for me, story is character. It's character driven.
Okay.
And that's why having these patrons that have character that end up being representatives of their representative, place, coming together as like, 30,000 foot overviews of what these, the differences between these people. So fun and interesting because you end up getting a representative conflict. So basically, I just had this idea. I want to come in. I want to be brutal. I want to be a terrorist. I want to burn things down. I want to but I want to do it with the mind's eye toward I don't know how many forces I was given until I literally got pulled in, and Jeffro rolled how many forces I got. And he's like, you get 300 you get 300 orcs. Oh wait, sorry, 200 orcs with crossbows. And I was like, sick. I had no idea what that was in reference to, but I was like, I'm down. I have my forces, I have my cave, I have my assignment. And then he's like, okay, and you're also helping this giant city, so you need to talk to him. And so that was Mr. Dunder. That's the Moose himself. So it developed pretty quickly. I had a couple of like I said, I was really coming in just trusting that people were going to check me if I was going to get out of line, and because of the reputation of the group, I kind of came in trying to show that I could hang, aka I'm going to be a terrorist, and if you need to cool me down, you'll tell me to cool down.
I will say, I think you were probably the most active wheeler dealer that I got to interact with. Now, and I was very grateful that you showed up because I felt like it was going to be everybody against Steddington. Like Detroit versus everybody, and I felt like I was just going to get curb stomped. So I was happy to have at least one ally I could trust.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. I mean,
you were pulling me into conversations and stuff with people that I thought there's no way I should be talking to these folks. You know what it felt like? It felt like we were playing an episode of Survivor, where we were all trying to make deals and fool each other and like get stuff going, and like it just had that immediacy for me. Is that what it was like for you?
For sure. I mean, that was part of the thing. Is we had a couple of discussions early on with Jeffro in between when him pulling into stuff. It's like, can we just say like how do we facilitate the fact that we're discussing things with each other, right? Like that was the thing that we had to discuss. And so we literally talked about inviting a douche emissary from a party of douches into Steddington with women and wine and having a discussion. That was facilitated one of the discussions we had. So basically, we came up with, whether they were ever required of us, we came up with ways for us to have talked.
That was where the stupidest stuff Jeffro would ever heard of came in handy for me. Like all of my prep and backstory, I could just come in and say, "Oh no, we have this district where it's a party district, and the young bucks from Doucheland come down here to party with the Steddington chicks," and like everyone just said, "Oh, okay," because like I'd already built that, and nobody was gonna tell me no.
You could have just beamed it up on the spot. We would have been like, yeah.
Yeah, well,
That's what I assumed was happening.
It is known.
You,
So mote it be.
You don't have we're not playing at this level all the time. We're doing dungeon crawls 90% of the time, right, or half the time, whatever. And it's like, well, we're gonna dip up into this high level stuff temporarily to play with it, And so like the negotiation phase, we're not playing that day by day and inch by inch and hex by hex. It's like we don't even know what's going on at that level. We're playing the session to find out in a way.
Yeah.
You know? So when you guys hash these things out, it's like, look, this political situation's been brewing for a year. You know, you guys know. I think Gabe set up a game where each of the factions were located far apart, and then they had envoys in a city where they could do all their diplomacy, and that was separate from the activity of the campaign. Meanwhile, Dubs, when he ran his Battle Braunstein, he had like some kind of Twin Peaks themed radio in people's heads where they would
Fishstein, right?
So whatever that was, it's like, you know, to play a Braunstein, everybody needs to talk to everybody else, and so, you know, you're gonna, I think, you know, so what, you cheated on this one thing, you know, like you can't, well, it's again, we're back to the autism thing. You can't role play every single individual that's in the entire campaign world all at once, all the time. That's impossible. So you make some adjustments to set up a game that's worth playing, obviously.
The way that I see it, especially after that experience, was that we all developed a narrative together with the rules in mind and the boundaries of the rules in mind, that we then said, okay, how long did this take to play out? Because what we ended up doing, right, was like we had all this stuff that I had planned and other things, and we were all taking our turns with Jeffro, like laying the plans on him. And one of the earlier things, Billy went on an adventure with his fucking dragons, and immediately found what he was looking for.
He was like, "What's in that cave?"
Well, it was funny because
right?
I was talking with Elder Brock when we were playing and, you know, stuff, and
Elder Brock was
there's
Macho
these
Mandolph,
there's
for those who don't know.
Yes, Elder Brock was Macho Mandolph, and there's stuff on the map that we don't know what they are, and this kind of came into like how everything went, because I was like, well, I could ride the dragons and like go over there and look and see what it is and report back or whatever. And we were like, okay. And I fly over and I find all these orcs. And Jeffro's like, are you going to avoid or you want to fight them? And I'm like, well, the smart thing would be to avoid them. But like my guy's this human supremacist guy and he's like on a dragon. So he's feeling really tough. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go in and go for the battle. And during the battle, Macho was messaging me like, what's going on, everything, and I wouldn't respond to him to make him more nervous. And the battle ended up in my favor, fortunately. But I didn't message him anything, so it would just make him nervous like the whole time while it was going on and stuff. I was like, well, I can't.
So
just
you and
tell
Jeffro
them.
are in a separate room from the main Discord at this point.
Oh,
when
man.
you're fighting
Yes.
them.
Oh,
And then I get yoinked in because he's attacking me. So
And I remember Dunder saying, "Oh, the orcs and Billy are in the same room together." Whatever. Something's obviously going on.
Yeah. But at that point, like the orcs they were going everywhere. They were talking to everyone, and so I was like, I had no idea what was going on. But you guys were in there for a good long bit, and I was like, I don't know what's going on with this situation. Awesome. All right, so I'm going to skip you, Jeffro, and we're going to go to Dornall, because I feel like your prep for this is going to be of a different type, right? So, Dornall, how did you get ready to run the elves down in Lothriven Grove?
Believe it or not, I had no prep at all. I was one of the other players with PC in the area. So I had an elf who was mage thief, and he's the only other person to train in Berkelberg because he had assassinated another player character and needed to level up. So I spent the whole week leading up to the Battle Braunstein going, I didn't have any creative ideas. I will never come up with something as good as Doucheland. So I was like, I'm gonna see if I can get my PC involved. Maybe I can get some gold, some experience, that sort of thing. You know, I'm just gonna show up. I'm gonna help out however I can. You know, I just want to show up and play, right? And Jeffro's rebuffing me all week. He's like, look, And he's saying on Twitter, nobody's playing their PCs. Nobody's playing their PCs. I'm looking
Except
at you,
for
Billy. And I'm like, that's fine, whatever. I'll just show up and see. So the first time Jeffro pulls me into the room, we talk about what are the options, and I almost was going to get Berkelberg, but since I was
Ooh.
playing the elf and I'd sort of expressed an interest, he's like, okay, Loth Rivengrod, here's some elves, and he gave me the dope on the units and NPCs that he had there. And so I had about 15 minutes to sort of look at the map and look at my forces and figure out, okay, what's my angle here? What would the elves actually do in this situation? And it's kind of good that I wasn't paying attention, and I was, Jeffrey and I were irritating each other because I had completely forgotten about one component of the scenario, which was Jeffro's assumption that it was going to be everyone versus Steddington. I had completely forgotten about that. And so I came at it from a fresh blank sheet of paper. I've got these elves. They're in this position. How can I get the most out of this?
Those knife-eared, disloyal,
Those bastards.
soulless elves.
Someone said something about, Jeffrey said matching the player to the actual faction. I play the bad guy. In case
The heel.
Maybe you should have been Steddington.
I think you Steddington benefited from your preparation and thought about the armies and everything like that.
I always
I
wanted
would've
to
done
be the
something-
good guy, but even with foam, I was like pulled to the dark path.
I would have done
Tragic
something boring, like just sent my entire army at one city and crushed it and see what happened.
That's probably a better strategy than what I think.
Yeah, no, it was really interesting, and if you check the reports, and I'll go into, if you don't mind, I'll go into talking about like what happened next, which was once everybody started talking, Jeffro pulls us all in and says, okay, so you've had a bunch of time to talk, you've looked at your faction, what are your orders? Like, what are you doing? Or has anything come up that we need to adjudicate? Have you entered any agreements or battles or anything like that? And I'm looking at a very small force, right? I've got elves, they're way off in the forest, and I've got 30 archers and 30 light cavalry, who I presume aren't very helpful in forests. And but I do have a mid-level druid and a few other named, not name level, but mid-level characters. And I said, okay, so I've got a really weak force. So I need to find someone to ally with, or I need to take advantage of something.
This is so frustrating.
Well, this is where Billy comes in, because for any viewers of the What Is Dunder Moose show, about all the tensions between the elves and the human supremacists in the Palisade over the Goldenrod saga. And I
Goldenrod did not kill herself.
I had one ace in the hole, and I wish I'd been able to take better advantage of this. Poor BDubs couldn't make it for the Battle Braunstein.
Ah.
But Chaz the Elf and his unit of hippogriff riders
Ooh.
were more than willing to do some scouting for me, as long as he was welcome to hide out.
Is that what happened to my
of Loth
Goblin Warg
Rivengrod.
riders? I never did find what happened to them.
Oh, they ran into the archers, and elves surprise on 2/3 of the time.
I didn't even know about that.
It's not
Sounds
good
like-
to be a goblin in Elf Woods.
Yeah, it's not good to be anybody in Elfwoods. Yeah, I'm looking at a force that
us, baby, humans.
it would have been really difficult for anybody to actually take Loth Rivengrove, but I had no offense. So I set up a scenario where if I can get Steddington and the humans to fight against each other, and Billy clears out his palisade looking for orcs to kill, we're going to go in and destroy the palisade, because
Nice.
those humans, they're cutting down our trees, and they're
Oh.
fostering anti-elf sentiment amongst
Round
the
ears
humans.
cause tears.
Elderbrecht and Who Caresville, they were allies, and now these guys are just ruining these relations. I thought it'd be prudent to raise the palisade to the ground. That was my plan, anyway.
And Urkelberg was just hanging out.
Zuckerberg was like doing the total assassin ninja low profile thing. Like, oh, you forgot about us, didn't you?
Brains are comfortable with that.
I mean, I think a better player than me would have done a lot more with those elves, but I was matched perfectly with my faction, especially with my dastardly work with my PC elf. It was a lot of fun.
No, and of course, Billy had no idea that there was this force lurking by the palisade.
Just waiting.
The only thing that saved him was that flying around on the dragon, he couldn't take his troops with him. So
yeah, if Chris hadn't given him the dragon,
fortified. So it just so happened that he managed to survive this.
Yeah, and my troops, I was planning on if there was an attack of an army on Huskerville, they would come in as a flank and leave as a flank. So if that would have happened, it would have ended up completely differently.
Yeah, in a better world, the treetop forests city of Loth Rivengrove would have a Naugahyde couch.
Now I wish the douches had gone and gotten themselves some elf chicks.
Right on. All right, Jeffro. Again, I'm gonna go first if that's cool with you, and then we'll have you share with how do you prepare to run one of these things.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
All right, so I'm gonna actually share my screen here. This is what I made.
What is this?
So
all the stuff that Jeffro would never do.
well, so here's what I knew about Steddington. I knew there were giants there. I knew they sent around like teams of heavies to like collect tribute from the other towns that they did not like paying, but they pretty much had to. I knew that before my very first session playing in Trollopulous was when Billy had gotten nabbed because there were trolls guarding one of the entrances. It was trolls and it was goblin warg riders, and like they had sombreros on and they were like selling carousing passes, right?
Oh
yeah.
Remember that?
That's when I got kidnapped. Yep.
So I'm like, all right, there's giants, but for some reason there's also trolls here. And there's also, I've got goblins on wargs, which are stinking awesome units, guys. Man, if you had those, think about archers they're super mobile, that if you charge them, their mounts will eat you. Like that was the reason Billy got captured, right? Is because they abandoned their henchmen to the warg riders, and
no, that's how the other guys, the other 10 men I was with, got captured. Daddy Warpig was trying to enter the city, and I thought, you
were the one that
go
didn't
by
wanna
himself.
go.
I didn't want to go. No, I didn't even want to go. And everyone else wanted to go, and I'm like, guys, we should do the dungeon or whatever. And they're like, no, we want to go. I'm like, okay. And then he's going up by himself because everyone's like, I don't want to go up there. And he's like, well, I gotta sell something or whatever the fuck he was doing. And then I'm like, well, I'm the fighter. I gotta like protect my bros, so I gotta go with him to protect him. And he gets up there, and then I don't have any money because I left it all at the fort or whatever. And
left my wallet in my other pants.
And then they're like, oh, well, it's $100 to get in. And I'm like, oh, I don't have that. And Daddy Warpig's like, I don't have it. And then they pick me up and take me. And then Daddy Warpig goes, oh, I do have it, actually. Here you go. And he just lets me get taken off.
When he sees you get grabbed, he's like, actually, I do. Now that you put it that way. All right. So that's what I knew. I knew that Steddington... I figured the reason that they went to Steddington is because they thought it was a human city, and that the surprise was that the giants had taken it over. So I just went on a website. It's called What About, and I had it just generate this city for me. I didn't like plan every building or whatever. I just just came out, and I figured, okay, well, Steddington, right? Stedding of the Hill Giant. I just said, okay. When they broke into the wall, and that was one of my concessions, right, was that they hadn't rebuilt the walls yet. Because Jeffro was like, put something in that could change the balance. Put something in that could mess with it, right? So I was like, okay, they got all these breaches in the walls from when they took it over. And then they just flattened the center of town here. I don't know if you guys can see my mouse. They flattened the center of town called the Old Ward, and then they just raised their own. They took all the lumber and raised their own setting. And I just basically dropped G1 in the center of the city. And I was like, if you know, my mindset with this, I totally was way overthinking what Jeffrey was asking us to do. I was still thinking about the dichotomy between patron players as a war game, just trying to fight each other off and win, which seemed to me to have an end state with one powerful player that kind of flattens the campaign. And I was thinking of what I got to do with Foam the Gnome as an NPC. Well, he wasn't an NPC, but I gave him over to Jeffro with instructions on how to run him, and he became a patron in that way. And I thought the point of a patron is to serve, is to compete with the other patrons for the interest of the players. Like, it should be making the game easier for the DM. It should be making the world more interesting instead of less. And so I thought I need to just kind of make a little setting that if he needs me to DM part of it or hand it over. So I have a document too that I wrote up. But yeah, basically I put the Troll Lord. He's in the castle that got shattered, and his job is to repair the wall and repair the castle. And the king is basically Chief Nazenra from G1. I just dropped the steading of the Hill Giants right in there. And for my force list, I was just like, well, what do they have? And I just wrote it all down. And then I said, okay, and we got trolls too. There would have to be enough trolls that they could represent a separate faction. And I thought, well, players could play them off each other if they got there, right? Because they might not want everything lining up. And then the other big part of it was I've read a book. It's a two-parter called The Wizard Knight by Gene Wolfe. And
Hell yeah.
it's a brilliant series.
Amazing book.
And so I was like,
Jeffro's
okay,
going to sleep.
that has the second book in that series. There's only two. The second book in the duology, humans are interacting with these giants, and there's a human woman that marries a giant to cause peace. And like in the book, inexplicably, she just like takes to the role and like seems to love her husband. And so I thought that's weird and surprising. And so I wanted, and the other thing I took was that the male human slaves all got blinded. So all the men in Steddington have had their eyes put out, and they're working the mines. And the women are the foremen, and the women are also, well, so the noble women come to their queen, who was the daughter of the guy that was, the Lord Mayor. And they say, hey, we don't have any eligible noble men. They've all been blinded. They're all slaves. What are we going to do? And so she used her charms on her husband and got the upper ward here on the left. Say, don't run your patrols through this as much. Let's leave this open and let's try and lure down the noblemen of Doucheland. They can come and come to soirees and like these, these big cotillions and party, whatever the women nobles want to try and find suitable mates. And that all of that just came from the idea that they were selling carousing passes. That like Steddington was a party city that had a hot nightclub scene, and that fits so perfect with Dacre's frat boys out to cause trouble, right? And so those were the pieces where it was like it was just too silly, and it seemed so ephemeral and not useful at all. And then the other part of it, I wanted a third faction. And that was that the the woman who, the queen, she had a network of spies, all the sighted women that were feeding her information, and she was even infiltrating like the ORC, the women in Utrecht, who caresville. Anyway, that was my excuse when it was like we're all in the room and we need to talk. When the orc guy comes in, when Cronin says, yeah, we've got a representative, we're in one of the nightclubs, and they're partying, and like this guy gets tapped on the shoulder from Douchelandia and invited back into the VIP lounge, and there's like a hill giant and an orc sitting there talking to him, and that's how we were able to talk to Dacre and make a deal that he wound up fooling us for, right? Yeah, the mega elaborate world building stuff just so happens to be a perfect fit for the low effort gag factor. I couldn't have put it better myself. Whoops, that's not what I want. This. So I obviously did not understand the assignment and went way overboard. And and what you did not hear, the defenses for this place, Jeffro can tell you, those were the shower thoughts that hit me. I designed a phalanx of trolls that would fight in 5 ranks. So the first rank would charge in with spears and then drop them and do claw bite. They would fight for 2 rounds and then they would fall all the way back to the back rank while the next rank charged forward. And in so doing, there would be enough turns for the trolls healing to kick in before they made it back to the front rank again. And so
I'm gonna
I
need
was
you to
thinking,
draw
all
that
right.
up for me on a grid paper for later.
Right?
Done.
So I'm thinking, well, that's using the troll strength, right? The other thing I was thinking was, how would I fight trolls? Well, I'd throw flaming oil on them, right? So I've got hill giants on the battlements, and their first attack wasn't going to be boulders, but was just going to be throwing casks of oil at the attackers so that they would get so drenched in oil that they wouldn't dare light their own for fear of putting the whole regiment on fire. So that was my other thing. And then I had all my slaves were in front of the breaches, were digging enough like gopher holes and trenches and stuff that if horses tried to charge, they would all break their legs coming in, and then they'd be forced to fight on foot. So
all that prep, and it didn't get used. Hashtag no prep supremacy.
I will say nobody decided to try and attack Steddington, right? Like it was, I think, how did you put it, Jeffro? It was a death trap waiting to eat whatever was thrown at it.
Yeah, and then Deutschland is a cavalry charge is not a siege army.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And and not John Dacre was not like, oh well, we'll need 40 catapults, 7 ballistas. He never asked about that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the funny thing too is like
And
I come into this and
he probably should if we revisited this, there's probably a less dumb faction leader in Deutschland that actually has all that stuff.
Well, you see, all the engineers are getting shoved into lockers to build catapults.
That's right. They all got atomic wedgies and they didn't want to help. All right, so let's get to what happened. No, I'm sorry, Jeffro. I've been skipping you all night. How do you prep to run this kind of thing, especially when you got some players that are like, I don't know, I'll just show up and figure it out, and then you got like people like me like thinking, okay, and if they do this, I'm going to do that, and then how do you?
No, okay. The prep was first. Lock out anyone that's ever given me any static whatsoever. Step 2 was put out a call to anyone that wanted to help me do what I had, which was a dumb idea at the beginning that nobody believed in. So I was surrounded by people that were brainstorming with me, that were helping me. As far as like the prep stuff, like I sketched out the town factions like in February to start this out, and I had a basic idea of these 3 towns versus Steddington, and all of that stuff got used.
Anyone that gave you static wasn't invited. Brian's like, how did these guys get in then?
But yeah, no, the basic factions were sketched out 6-8 months ago, and it really came down to just sort of elaborating them on a little, so I would throw out what I had, and then people would like say what they wanted to do, which was usually the completely wrong thing. But I would use what I can to kind of like embellish things before like completely abandoning them to whatever was happening, But yeah, it's I'd say 2 sheets of paper would have covered the prep that I had. And then when things were going, I mean, you've already seen how it goes. Like the the personality of the factions are almost more important of the player. The personality of the player is almost more important than any of the stats. And then the role playing, the diplomacy stuff is going to go its own way. But yeah, I guess one last comment is as things will gel by themselves. You've got all these people working independently. You've got all the canon of your 6 or 8 months of campaign playing, and people have already they've already imagined 80% of this, and we're just adding a little bit more to what's already been imagined. And we've been thinking about those dragons for 3-4 months. What's going to happen when they're on the map? We didn't even know. But no, there's a weird alchemy to this that, in retrospect, now, when you think of this place, it's the world model. It is as if Doucheland has always been there, even though we just thought of it the other day. Even though it just got fleshed out a few weeks ago. In your mind, it's like, oh no, Doucheland's always been there. This is what I don't know. There's something.
Well, it had to have been. Something was keeping the giants from just doing what Doranol said and just coming in mass and taking over every city.
And the carousing pass, a dumb Jeffro joke, is now. Oh no, it's this elaborate Gene Wolfe thing. Yeah. Yeah, I'll get credit for this forever now.
Steddington has Who-Caresville's hottest nightclubs.
I'm just glad he added the.
I'm glad somebody in the chat understood the assignment, made the joke. We've always been at war with Southeast Doucheland.
I'm glad that they didn't implement the blinding slaves until after I was a slave there. Or that would have made things.
Well,
a lot
they only
different.
do that to Steddington slaves. They don't do that.
Oh, okay.
You were going to be temporary labor.
But the interactions of the factions, the relationships of the factions, and the sort of the socio-political situation now. It's, if you were going to try to explain this, it would take massive amounts of paper in a TSR module circa 1987, and it would be completely worthless to any Bro SR group. But no, it's completely stupid, but it's also more nuanced than anything that a lone dungeon master would ever put into his game.
True.
So, and also the colors, I don't have the imagination to play 7 different factions in a unique way, as if they didn't know what else was going on. I don't have, I just don't, so being able to just dump all this on the group is oh wow, look, this is so much better than anything I can make up. Why would I ever make anything up?
I have to tug on that thread, because that's sort of the response to that we've had for a long time is, well, just use patrons, or just have people help you with that cognitive load of having all those different factions. So what made this different? How was it successful? What made it successful?
Were you asking Jeffro or throwing it out to the room?
I don't get to say if it was successful. That's
well, all the players seem to have fun.
Yeah, and if you had fun, that's D&D, right? I'm just kidding.
But we had fun by the rules.
Right, that's right. Oh, that was a troll. I apologize. I'm known for those guys. Well, so let me ask: Did you guys feel like it was a success? Was anybody frustrated with it? Let's throw that out there.
I would say I wasn't frustrated with it. I think it was a huge success from my standpoint, and with what we had, and we were able to throw together. Most people came in blind, and I mean, other than the stuff I had from playing as a character, I was pretty much blind. Everything seemed to work out. Obviously, it was a little bit of a bumpy ride because we were, fumbling at the beginning, but as soon as about 20 or 30 minutes into it, everything just started rolling and clicking, and it progressed into what we what we wanted it to be. So I would say it was a huge success.
Okay, so it was a win for you. You enjoyed it. Let's go
I'm gonna
around the
throw this
room.
out here as the thing that's been like just to give it a metric. I mean, my understanding, and this could just be my interpretation of what people have been saying here at Browser, but like all of the stuff that people talk about in their, what do you guys call them, group improv sessions. Yeah, group improv sessions. Like the amount of visceral, like meaningful narrative, like invested character stories, like getting invested in places and, you know, feeling something when they burn down, even if it's a bit of joy and laughter. All of those things can be achieved better if you just did the rules instead of saying that these rules get in the way of those things. That's kind of my representation of the Bro SR argument, is that if you do it by the rules, you're going to have a better time of what you're after than doing it the way that you're doing it. And by that metric, I would say, because this is my first experience having a bunch of people who were, you know, AD&D rules lawyers that I was playing with, I had more fun within the boundaries of the limitations at play than I did with the other thing. And I want to talk about the legendary icing on the cake a little bit later whenever that comes up, because I don't think anybody knows where the origin and nexus of that was, but it's part of the craziness of this kind of scenario. So
okay. So let's get into it then. Maybe we'll start with the good guys as the game started rolling. And I don't know, Evan, I don't know if you were a good guy or not.
I don't know if I was a good guy or not.
He was neutral. Yeah, he was neutral.
Well, let's start with you then. Like, what, as the game started to pick up and take off, like, what did you notice, and like, did your goals change, and how did you go about trying to achieve them?
That was one of my like weird places. I didn't have set goals. I didn't know what goals had been laid out for my faction, and I didn't come in with any goals in mind either, other than see how this whole thing worked out and wreck some shit. So yeah, so I watched what people were doing. I watched the Dice channel start scroll past as people were off in hidden rooms with Jeffro.
That is a source of info, isn't it?
It's not a great one, but it's a little bit.
It lets you know something's going on beyond just talkie.
Yeah. And then I pretty much just hung out with people and waited for somebody to offer. Yes, the 50-20s were something, Jeffro.
What is going on there?
That was definitely information. And basically I let myself mostly be ignored for most of the evening.
You were super quiet the whole time.
Yeah.
I wondered if you were enjoying yourself, if you were just like, what the heck is this crap?
Well, about half of it was straight up just trying to figure out what was going on, because I came in with nothing. I was in a similar situation to the elves. I think I had roughly the same level of forces.
It's tough, isn't it, when
so,
you don't have a default
and
condition or a goal.
And I had no victory condition, so I just decided, all right, we'll see if I get a chance to cause some problems for people. And
right on.
If I can, great. If I can't, well, so be it.
So to get back to that survivor analogy, like there are players that like try to dominate the game, and then there's others that are like, I'm going to sit back and see who approaches me. And then of the offers I get, I'm going to decide what I'm going to do and who I'm going to backstab and betray and all that stuff. It sounds like you're kind of in that mode where it was like part confusion, part biding your time.
A little bit, yeah. There was some time biding going on, and there was just some. I have no idea what's happening, so let's see what I can do.
Did that change, or were you confused the whole time?
It coalesced in my mind probably after I had made my decisions about what I was doing, but eventually, yeah, I did kind of figure out what was happening.
And did you get a spike of fun when that happened, or were you just enjoying it the whole time, or was it like?
Well, I was
over
having
this?
fun the whole time.
Okay, because
it
that's
was
like
just-
6 hours.
it-
If you're just not if you're confused
Yeah.
the whole time and you're not having fun,
wa-
that was like
it
you were a
wasn't-
trooper for hanging in, bro.
Yeah. I mean, I had a couple things I had to do while I was there, and so
Mhm.
I hopped in and out. But yeah, it was. I spent a lot of time just figuring out what was going on and who was doing what, and trying to keep up, trying to catch up, see if there was any tactical position I could understand. And since we didn't have a map, or I didn't see a map,
What were your forces like for your city? Because I had no idea what you had or anything. So
it was like 100 or 150 brigands.
okay.
Like if you look up brigands or bandits in the
Oh yeah, they're the chaotic
in-
evil ones.
in the
yeah.
monstrous manual, you like whatever they would have.
So you didn't have any thieves or assassins? I memed that into existence for you too.
No, you did not, Jeffrey.
Okay.
So I had some. I think I had 20 or 30 total,
Okay.
like first level thieves or something. But it was like nothing worth doing.
Okay.
Oh well.
Because the only thing I knew about Berkelberg was it's a place where, as a thief or assassin, you can go to train.
Yeah.
And that's
And
why I was like, I want to use those services.
And Godfather Vito was technically the head of the Assassins Guild in Berkelberg.
So that wasn't me. That was
yeah.
was known.
But it's just a weak ass little version of a Thieves Assassins Guild, and so most of its forces
Don't
were.
sell yourself short, man.
Well, you know,
We'll get to what that weak version was able to accomplish. All right, Dacre, did you have fun?
Yes, I had fun getting my revenge on you.
You suckered me good.
After what Foam did to Garamond, how did you not think I was going to get you?
Wait, what did Foam do to Garamond?
Foam let Garamond rot. Foam
Oh.
abandoned him.
Yeah, he did peace out pretty quick once he realized that there was no getting you off of that thing. I suppose Foam could have touched the shell. But yeah, that's another episode. We'll get to that.
So my whole goal was to... Well, I decided for myself, what are my win conditions? Not die and get laid.
Wait. Are we talking about the game?
Yes, we were talking about the game.
Okay, just checking.
And so, I had approached you guys, the more monstrous people, because I've been psyoped by the internet into thinking monster girls are attractive.
Oh, no.
But then some humans reached out to me, and I remembered, oh yeah, humans are the best.
Mm-hmm. There were human girls there.
I believe John asked which city had the best looking women, and I go, well, of course, Who Caresville has the best looking women. They're humans, and then
Hey.
that's
Where are the human women at?
Exactly. But yes, I had a lot of fun. Doing some betrayal and setting up the kegger.
Oh, that was the meat of it, right? How did all that come about? How did the kegger happen?
The kegger was all Brian and Cronin, man.
Well, so what happened, right, is when it got started, the first thing I did was, well, I have to figure out what the fuck's going on. So I said, Dunder, chat, please. And so I pulled him into a room. And then I literally asked Dunder, okay, can you please brief me? I'm your ally. We're the monsters. I am in no wise looking to backstab or betray you because you're really my only hope.
Yes.
So can you give me the layout? And he literally told me that Berkelberg is where assassins and thieves go to train.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned
I
only knew a couple things at this point. I knew that Who Caresville was human supremacist. human supremacists.
Yeah!
And that there was a crazy wizard there that had helped them get dragons. That was basically of the gist that I had of it because we knew about the dragon. So
He's like,
I
I
was
hate
like,
dragons.
so
Ignorance.
well, first off, I was like, well, what do we know about Doucheland? You told me about the thing about the Doucheland women, and my thought was similar to what they had said. Like he has a fortified city. They have cavalry. Like they're not in a position to take us by themselves. So maybe, right? What if we say, hey, let's kind of shake out some deal with you guys. You get women. You know,
Well,
my whole thought was you don't attack us, but it ended up being like we get education from Doucheland. You was the thing is we were going to send trolls
was
and
the
other
Kegger
children.
Daker's idea? Because your idea was you wanted to cause some trouble with the elves, right?
Yeah, well, that's what I wanted to do. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure that Doucheland wasn't going to stab you in the back as soon as I went to go burn the elves down.
Yeah, so you wanted to
and
attack the elves, but you didn't want to leave your back door open. So you wanted to know, you were like, hey, you guys can go at it all you want after I do this thing. But for right now, can you guys just have a detente? Can you have a peace until I go fix the elves? And then I don't have to worry about my flank being unprotected. And I don't remember if it was Dacre or you, whoever had the idea. I think it must have been Dacre to have
I think
a
it was
kegger.
Dacre that said it to have a kegger because
And
he said something about a party
purposefully-
tree.
He purposely picked like the region just south of my city that had no trees. It was just like wide open plain.
Except there was the one party tree. There was that one.
Yeah, there was the
hex
party
that
tree we
party
were going
tree.
to gather around. On the map, there was one hex that had a single tree in it. And he was like, all right, how about this? He's like, we want women and you need education. And like, if you read G1, there is a certain amount of like ogre children. I was like, all right, here's the deal. I got unmarriageable women that want doucheland boys, and they will go up there. And I got these ogres that need an education, and we're trying to subdue this city and rebuild it. We can't really. So, like, if I send the ogre picture of these, I mean, you guys would have had a heck of a football team that year if you.
You got a bunch of chicks looking like Fiona from Shrek showing up to the kegger. You better be drinking. That's all I'm gonna say.
So Dacre like was like, all right, well, here's what we'll do. Just to show the orcs that we're not gonna fight yet. You want this is so stupid. You don't send the girls and your students until the kegger's over, and the kegger will be in a wide open spot where the orcs can look over the shoulders and see everybody's getting along. We're having a party. It's fun, right? And we just all kind of spat on our hands and shook on it. And
but in the discussion before we went to that, he had mentioned the Brandenburg the Birkelberg thing, and I asked.
Well, that was you and me. I don't
I-
think we talked about that when Dacre was in the room.
No,
yeah?
I wasn't part of that.
No, I was no. That was we went to Dacre right after this. That's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was getting out of order there. But yeah, that was when I said, well, assassins. I'm like,
Right
can we
on.
hire them for somebody? And you're like, who should we hire them for? And you're like, well, I got a couple ideas. And I was like, what about them human supremacists? Which one of them?
You wanted him
And
dead.
I didn't know which one. I literally asked him. I said, which one, Billy or Elder Brechtenmecht or whatever the fuck he's called? And I was like, which one would be a better idea? And you're like, I don't know. I'll think about that. And then I got pulled into battles. And
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
did wheeling and dealing of your own, and that's where the magic happened. But I came in and I was like, oh, there's assassins. Great.
So-
Let's start fires everywhere.
I don't know
So-
why I thought Dacre was going to keep his word. I just thought it would be funny to have a big kegger, and that you were going to mess with the elves, and then later we were going to have it out.
Oh, you didn't expect the
No,
betrayal.
I was fooled. I was.
The red
I know
Kegger.
it sounds. I'm not trying to sound like I legitimately thought that the douche faction was going to betray me.
No, you
really
called
did.
it.
That was-
You called it.
Well, you committed more troops, but it was an accident. The amount of troops you committed. But so in the meantime, I sent. I had my wife send her little spies out to Birkelberg to negotiate an agreement, and that's when I called Evan in. And he's putting his kids to bed right now, so he can corroborate when he comes back. But basically, from what Cronin and I had talked about, I offered him two things. I said, number one, I said, never trust a douche.
The douches and the dicks won today. The dicks
The
flew
sack-
from the south on a giant flaming dicks, and the douches came from the north.
They come from a long line. The Sackville douches.
No, the guy that did the most world building was most surprised by the inevitable betrayal.
Wait a minute. You mean I can't trust the human douches?
Oh my god!
So yeah, I don't know why. I don't know. We'd been playing for a while at this point. So, but anyway, I sent my envoys to Berkelberg, and basically, I did not realize what a negotiator Evan was. I was like, okay, I want to know if anyone takes out a hit on any of my characters. Right, like I had the troll lord, I had the giant, and I had the wife, and I was like, I want to know if anyone takes out a hit. And he said, all right, you can buy the right of first refusal. So like, and I was like, all right, I'll give you 200 gold, and he was like 2,000. And I was like 800. So we had to do that to figure out how much. But basically, I was paying him that if anybody tried to hire him to assassinate me, he would let me know and let me buy out the contract to make sure it didn't happen. And then the other thing I asked him, maybe I should wait till he's back to talk about this because I want to hear his reactions to this stuff.
Same.
Yeah.
All right. So
Sorry, I
we'll
drove that
skip
direction, but-
that. We'll skip
No,
that
but
for the surprise.
I guess
ending.
what was the genius behind you suggesting the kegger? Because that was fucking funny, dude. We were in this
It was
like
amazing.
we were in this party room in Steddington with all those like let
Just
tell
music
you what we'll
thumping,
do.
red lights,
No, no.
confetti.
As soon as I heard about this kegger, I was like, "That's it. Nothing else matters."
Dude, he popped back in the chat and he's like, "What are we doing?" It's like, "Well, we're gonna have a kegger with Doucheland and Steddington and Orcs."
It's like,
And he just stopped and he had his video on and you could just see the gears grinding to a halt in his mind. He's just like, "Oh, wait a minute."
All right,
No,
so this
no.
is where I have to end my part of the story. I want to hear from Dacre and Billy and Jeffro and anybody else that was in on like, okay, what is Doucheland gonna do? So take it away.
So I had also been talking with the human groups. And so the plan was to somehow find a way to get as many monster forces into one area.
Yeah.
And with the whole dragon
Did you
thing-
guys just laugh when you told them what the fools were going to do?
So that's kind of why I suggested that the kegger, the wide open area, that's perfect for a dragon to come swooping in and, lightning as well as a cavalry charge. I mean, it was... But because it was a wide open plain, you would think you were safe.
Well,
no
there wouldn't be
ambush.
any gopher holes and trenches dug and barrels of oil to be thrown on your troops.
Who cares? We'll discuss sending an army, but we were like, well, the amount of time it would take to move our troops up there, whatever, it wasn't possible. And we had discussed this in length of what we were going to do, and I was like, I guess I just got to show up with all three of the dragons and just, and we were like, well, there'll be a signal.
It was two dragons.
Two dragons, yes, but they had the magic.
So you and Macho had actually been wargaming it out. Like, what would a frontal assault on Steddington look like?
We literally were discussing, okay, how can we get troops from here to here with the fastest, most efficient way? We were talking about the logistics of it, and there was the woods and the mountains, and it just came down to we'd have to go around. And it's like, well, by the time we went this way, there's the elves. They could rat us out or something like that because we never trust the dagger ears. And then I was like, well, we found the orcs up north. So I was like, well, the orcs would intercept us if we tried to go that way.
Yes.
Then we tried to figure out, well, what if we could drop in troops from the dragon, how long that would take. And it was just, it wouldn't be quick enough,
Name the dragon
unfortunately.
Huey, if you did that.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been quick enough. So we just went with, well, if Doucheland's all there, I mean, and they're mostly mounted and stuff, we just need to bring the dragons to the party. And that's what I did when we decided to crash it.
Oh man, Dorno.
Man,
Naugahyde couch
missed
and a wooden
opportunity, guys.
palisade.
I would have.
We
I
didn't
totally
need
would
it.
have watched
We
your
didn't
flank.
need
I
it.
would have kept
Why
the
didn't
forest
you guys talk
safe.
to the elves?
Well,
you.
there obviously I wasn't going to talk to the elves because I was
Trust
the
the
human
douche, but never
supremacist.
trust an
But Eldenbrock probably could have, but I wasn't going to talk to any non-humans in helping us. There was some discussions with Beelzebub or whatever his name is, who Brigadine played, and he was like, well, if you give me that couch back and the water cooler back, I won't get involved.
For grabs.
Oh,
And yeah, this was the negotiating tool behind the scenes. I was negotiating with the objects, the artifacts,
So much.
and I was like,
Dude.
I didn't want to give him up though. I didn't want to give him up, and I thought about it. I was like, well, what's he gonna do? What army does he have? He just says he won't get involved. So I called the bluff and didn't engage with it, and I'm glad I did. It came out on top because of it.
Well, dude,
the
hired,
water
he'd
cooler
actually-
is
I
the
was-
most
I was
important thing in the campaign.
The water
water
cooler and the
cooler.
couch.
The gumball machine. I had
And the gumball
the
machine.
piano, the clavichord, the big piano we took out the one time.
We
I
gave
had.
you such crap. We thought that treasure was so stupid.
Yeah, everyone thought it was all dumb, and I was like, "No, the artifacts are important," because I was like, that guy got status from having a space heater, and I was like, if I can get more stuff, I become the more dominant leader, and that's kind of how it worked out.
You were the only one who understood the assignment.
And everyone thought it was dumb because I was like, "Hey, I had a map." I was like, "This guy told me there was this artifact back in the dungeon." I was like, "Oh, we're not going to go to the dungeon." I'm like, "But there's this artifact that we got. He told me he's got a map here. We could find the artifact." Everyone's like, "Why do you want all these? They don't do anything."
It's Velvet Elvis.
They were missing the forest for the trees. You know what I mean?
It could have been that painting of the dogs playing poker, man.
Yeah,
That's a good
Yeah,
choice.
I was.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was talking to Elderbrecht and Belbaz. I was actually going to work with Belbaz to get the Naugahyde couch. If he helped me take the palisade, I'd give him that couch.
I had
But,
no idea all of this was going on about the
Yeah,
couch.
Brig will have to confirm. I think he was preparing to betray me. I think he was trying to set me up for the orcs.
I never
So-
heard any of this. I never
no,
Well,
heard
it
this
just-
was
I
all
can
in
tell you-
DMs.
I've hidden information that's actually not true because I had actually lied to everybody about who I was actually going to attack, and I was going to go burn Who Caresville down. That's what I was going to do. I'd actually made a deal with Belbaz. I said, if you can keep the elves busy, what do you want from me? I want to go deal with the humans. And he said, bring me a couch, bring me a water cooler, bring me. And he's like, and I will make sure that the elves are not a problem.
And this
Bro,
player
you
has
coulda
no
had the best
idea what
allies
this stuff
ever.
is. He's like, why is he asking for a couch?
No. See, here's the fucking greatest thing is I'm an orc, right? But I played the smartest possible orc that I could think of, but I'm still an orc. So he's like, he wants a couch.
There's lots of places to get a couch.
It's like, that sounds bloody wonderful. It sounds like a right treasure. You know, like it's just like fucking like, you know, Cronan's probably done more for a fucking mouthful of orc teeth. Like, so, you know, it's fine. Like, he gets it. But no,
Would
like
you-
that was the
You
whole
want me
thing.
to kill a
is I
guy
was-
for an ottoman?
I gotta
Yeah.
point out this is where player skill really comes in. If we had done a little bit more talking, and more talking with me, because I was one of those, wallflower guys, like we could have put together an anti-human alliance like nobody's business.
It would have been amazing, dude. We would have burned fucking Who Caresville down. It would have been amazing.
I don't know if
was-
that would have
yeah.
been good for the campaign.
Who's Caresville still lost, but it was this close to being razed to the ground. I had 30 light infantry in the plains on the forest edge. Basically, as soon as Billy's troops moved, I was going to sweep in and intercept them.
Because of time, we had to go straight into the kegger. Because of time, we had to go straight into the kegger. But I never even got to give my orders to Jeffro what the fucking orcs were going to do.
Same.
And my plan was to commit 25 to the kegger because I knew that they were going to die. Like I knew however many was at the kegger was going to die. I wrote them off. But it ended up being 45, which was fine because I still would have rolled down 135 orcs and to the doorstep with fucking crossbows and axes up coming out of the forest by Who Caresville, because I was banking on them not sending an army, because like I don't know, I it was just because of the elves and everything, because I didn't actually know what the political dynamics were. I made my own orc racist assumptions of what the political dynamics were, and that was why I made my plan the way I did. I was
Well,
like,
to be fair,
the Northies and
everybody
the
was.
human supremacists ain't gonna work with the Northies. So, you know, like
Shoot.
the evil
I
wizard better
wish-
keep them busy while I burn their house down.
No, we wouldn't have had time to adjudicate every little thing, but I wish I had done one more conference with every player to get this in motion before I adjudicated the kegger. Knowing that all this was happening, that would have just been. It could have been beautiful.
I had no idea about the couch.
It was beautiful.
You can still, like, that's the thing, right? Like, like depending on how the time scale works, you could, however long we adjudicate that time of all of that shit that already did happen to happen, you can address it later. That's the nice thing that, like I said, the bro has shown me about the real time, and the value of that is like it gives you time to cogitate on what's actually happened in the world and figure out, you know, what the plans are.
The only thing I knew about Belboz was that he wanted Elderbrecht spell books. He wanted to know the minute that Elderbrecht left his tower so that he could sweep in and take his spell books. That's what he told me anyway. And so I had a spy watching the tower, and I was like, how am I going to get word to you? And he's like, well, there is a squirrel and a dog watching the tower. Just give them the note. I'm like, what? Well, animals watching it? So that was funny.
The man himself is back.
Yeah, he's back.
Welcome back, Evan.
Hi.
So we were talking about all the other stuff, and I started to share about like the deal making that you and I made, and then I was like, nope, I want him here for this.
Okay.
So before we get to that though, was there anything else behind the scenes with the douche brigade?
They pretty much ignored me. Didn't have a lot to say about them. They didn't have a lot to say to me. So
Like, I knew I was never going to talk to Elderbrecht. In fact, when I saw Macho Mandolf change his name to Elderbrecht, like my stomach, I felt like a drop in temperature. I was like, oh no, I'm going up against Chris. This man destroys Braunsteins, right?
Don't let him fool you. He was actually thinking that when he found out he had to go against me.
I had no idea what was coming. So, Belboz was Pewter's best friend. I'm sad that Foam left him to get backstabbed. No, actually, Foam wasn't there when that happened. That was Huxtable.
Huxtable! Do the voice. Do the voice.
That was the worst. Like, so you know how they say that Dacre always touches it? Like, he got stuck on a tar baby and couldn't, and he thought, I'm gonna use burning hands to free myself. And he ignited it and just basically napalmed himself when he's burning to death. And I'm simping for that assassin cred, right? So I go in there and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna ask him.
I want a good grade.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm gonna ask him if he wants me to put him out of his misery. And everyone was like, you gotta do the voice. So I'm like,
gotta do the voice. That's what I said. Yeah.
So if you don't know who Huxtable is, I was rolling up a character. His stats were an assassin, but one of the crazy things about first edition is you have to roll up how tall they are and how much they weigh. And this dude was a giant. He was extraordinarily tall, and he was about as heavy as you could get on the table. And so I'm picturing like this assassin who's like trying to hide in the shadows, but he's got like a gut and he's just huge. And I just pictured Ghost Dog. Right? I don't know if you remember Ghost Dogs like this. Just
I was
overweight
thinking Fat Albert the whole time.
Well, that was the other. So Fat Albert and Ghost Dog, and they kind of mixed together. And so I got a poster of Ghost Dog, and I put Bill Cosby's face on it, and I named him Huxtable, and I did the Cosby voice all night. It was ridiculous. But
No. The Goldenrod's wife heard you doing the voice that night. She thought we were like Critical Role, like Critical Role voice actors playing D&D. She was very impressed.
I don't know if Black Lodge Games is still in the chat, but yeah, we did the voices, and I've gotten Jeffro to do the voice of Lenny the Burrow Owl.
The Boston accent.
We do the silly voices, y'all. But yeah, so
we were very immersed in that dungeon experience. I'm telling you,
transported, if you
I don't know
will.
what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I don't. Do you remember what I said to you, Dacre, when I was like offering you like mercy?
It was something like, "I see you're in a bad way, son."
Son, I see you're in the bad way. Now, if you ain't with the slicing and the chopping and the whipping and the biting. It made me do that to a dying man who was burning to death.
Worth it.
My only regret, and I've said this before, my only regret was that when he got fried by those little dragons, lightning, that I didn't have him scream Zerbert while he died. That would have been the pièce de résistance. But anywho, we got off track. The red kegger happens. Dacre knows, like I knew. Well, so Jeffro was like, "This is stupid," but how many giants are you sending? And I don't know if there was just like some spark of self-preservation in the back of my brain that was like, "Wait a second." So I was like, "I'll send 5 hill giants and I think it was 10 goblin warg riders, something like that."
yeah, you picked the wrong number.
Yeah. So I send the 5 giants down, and they are just like totally bought it. Well, here's the other thing: giants are dumb. So I'd like to say, "Oh, I was doing good role playing. I was playing a dumb enemy," but no, I was stupid myself. But they come down, and they are just ready to party. Like they're just carrying like barrels of ale and sloshing them around like mugs. And they didn't bring, because that's the thing in G1, the setting of the Hill Giant Chief. Like there's a picture of a giant, and he's got a ballista as a crossbow. And like I was like, "Oh, I got to use that. That would be awesome." But they didn't bring their ballistas because they were there to party. And so Jeffro asks me, "Okay, who shows up?" And I say, "Oh yeah, but it's these 5 hill giants, and it's these goblin warg riders." And then he asks Dacre, "Okay, who shows up?" And he's like, "Everybody."
Yeah.
Like how many? What was it, like 100 cavalry,
There's
heavy
There's
cavalry,
150 heavy cavalry, 100 pikemen, and 50. Was it 50 nerds or 25 nerds?
50 nerds. Had to be 50.
I think it was
50 nerds.
So you got 5 giants. It was supposed to be 25 orcs, but I think Jeffro might have miscommunicated and sent 50 of them.
It ended up being 45. He misheard me, but I committed to it because I was like, "Fuck it."
He wouldn't contradict me because he was too nice.
So the giants get there and immediately start the heavy drinking and the music and the dancing and just shaking the earth with their footsteps and stuff. They're just partying by the tree, like one
And
hand
again-
up halfway up the tree, just headbanging.
And again, to prove the suspicion, I did say that only half of the orcs were partying at a time. So there was half of the 45 that was on watch, because that's how we saw that. That's how we basically didn't get surprised, yoinked by the dragon, because I just knew that like something's gonna happen, because the orcs had also gotten attacked by the dragon like 3 days before this. In the so they're like eye in the sky with their crossbows, going.
The only concession that Jeffro made the cavalry give is that they weren't wearing their full armor. They all had the popped collared look on their horses.
They were all just.
So just picture a bunch of
Exhibition polo
douches.
game.
Yeah, wearing Izods, popped collars with
And
lights.
helmets with the pop collars.
Oh man. So but before they inevitably charge the giants, what do we hear booming out over the top of the treetops but Ride of the Valkyries? Right?
This isn't narration.
I was
this is
thinking
in-universe.
that. I was thinking that in my head, and like Chris had DM'd me, like we have Audible Glamour and it's playing Flight of the Valkyries.
Dun, 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 dun. So like I got this huge army in front of them, and then these guys just fly like well, first I find out that they're playing that music and they fly over the top. So it's two blue dragons, one of them being ridden by Billy, and then Chris just pipes up and says, "The dragon that Billy's riding is going to cast mirror image on himself," and I'm like, "Come on, are you kidding me? Like you've got two adult blue dragons attacking from one side. You've got all of Douchelandia on the other side, and he's still going. And I'm going to add this.
And I
bonus,
think they had to.
and I'm
I
going
think
to
they had
cast
to
this
roll for
spell.
how many images, right? And they got 2, so it looked like we were getting attacked by 4 dragons flying.
I think
Yeah.
five. It was 5 dragons.
There's 5 dragons, yeah, because it was him,
you
the
rolled
other one, and then 2
3 or
clones.
3.
Yeah,
Which was like 5 would have been enough if not for that one spell. 5 hill giants would have been enough if not for that one spell.
So the orcs just fire on the dragon. Well, first of all, everybody like realizes, oh crap, we have to stand and fight because you're not
Yeah.
going to outrun 2 adult blue dragons thundering right at the Valkyries.
Going full Karen to stop the party.
Full Karen with a human supremacist. He's not going to hold. He's not going to turn. He's coming at you. So I was like, the goblins. I don't know if we won initiative or what, but I was like, the goblins just peace out. Like they just run home to Steddington. And then the giants are just stuck there. They got to stand and fight. And the orcs did what they could. They fired crossbows at the dragon. I think they got 1 or 2 of them to disappear with their volley of crossbows. But
there was a dispute about the morale checks for the orcs. I think I was randomly rolling if the dragons would charge or breath weapon, and they kept breath weaponing. Like they kept that kept being what happened.
Oh yeah, because if they
But when
charge, they cause fear, right?
Right. And
Yeah.
so that kept
One more
everybody
thing.
in the fight. And I said, like, it almost went into this long digression into the meaning of the morale rules in this situation. But I was like, no, these orcs think they killed 2 dragons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't break because they're like, yeah, we deleted 2 dragons out of the sky.
well, and another thing too is like, and again, nobody else knew this, but like they're told like, yeah, you're gonna go to this party, but you know, if you die, you die. Like, kill as many as you can.
If they die, they die.
And because they understand that like we got a small tribe, we got to make moves if we're going to be around any longer. With
Cronin's just sitting there doing the Denethor tomato eating scene. Like, oh, if they die, they die.
But yeah, we got 8 whole nerd scalps because we had to drop the crossbows and because the nerds started blasting us and the
nerds shot you to death. Like they just destroyed you with their 2 shots of magic missile. But the surprise for me was that hill giants just digging up boulders and hucking them at the dragons were doing some serious damage.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Because they act like catapults, but being a giant, they don't have the penalty for short range that a catapult would.
Yeah.
So,
all of these rules, like it's all self-evident if you're fluent in the rules and you war game it out. But going into this, I didn't war game any of this. I had no idea what was going to happen until we rolled the dice.
who would know that the red kegger was going to be a thing?
Oh,
How do you prepare for the red kegger?
no.
So damage both of the dragons. Like if it had hit correctly, I could have killed one with that first volley. But some of them just went into invisible, like the fake dragons. Some of them hit. Oh, most of the damage went on the one that wasn't being ridden.
Yeah, I was doing random targets.
Yeah.
I think that's the rule.
It's mass combat, right? Like,
Yeah.
So
and the giants were surprised. I don't think they'd be coordinating efforts or anything. Like they were there to party. Man, did they have a bad party?
And one was holding a tree, if I remember, when he got shocked by lightning from a dragon. He uprooted the party tree, and
yeah. So I think he was gonna try and pull it up and bat one of them like when they got close, but oh man, can you guys see what Macho? I'll bet you do, man. I'll just bet you do.
Realizing that those juiced up blue dragons literally got, those juiced up blue dragons with just 5 hill giants, like that it does kind of like put the stuff in perspective, like especially with the amount of damage that was getting thrown around by those boulders hitting.
So the lightning fried some of the giants, and then there was the famous charge of the douche brigade. The charge of the douche brigade at the red wedding or red kegger.
Kegger.
And I don't. Did those finish me off, Dick, or did I have one like wounded giant left? I think I got one more shot off at the dragon.
There were 2 charges. They had to do two charges at you to take all of the giants out.
But the end was known from the beginning. Those giants were doomed. The orcs were doomed.
It was
the
like
goblins.
a question, are you going to take a dragon with you or not?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was what I wanted
boiled
to
down
take.
to.
I wanted to take a dragon, and
It
just
could have happened. It could have happened if the dice had been a little different.
I got one more hit, but it went on the fresh dragon instead of.
Oh,
And I also was hoping that because it was also possible to hit Billy and knock him off the dragon with a rock, and that would have been the end of Billy, right? Like, but he didn't get hit. The
He
fresh
had
dragon.
plot armor legitimately, like
Yeah.
in both combat.
So it was like a total, like that was the most frustrating part of the night for me, and I probably for you too, Aaron, because it was like, oh, all of our machinations, all of our behind the scenes deals and stuff has just led to this loss on the battlefield. But there was one other thing to adjudicate. I had come to Evan's domain and I had said, I want to know if anyone takes it. I thought I didn't know that we were the only ones, Cronin and I, that had thought of the assassins. I thought everybody knew. And so the first thing I said is, I want to know if anyone takes a hit out on us, right?
I think our decision with that was we're lawful good, so we couldn't access the assassins.
Yeah, but you got the knife ears down in the south, right? They got no qualms. Maybe, I don't know. So I did not realize that Evan was gonna just be such a shrewd negotiator. No matter what I offered to pay, you were always like, "Oh, I need way more than that." And
You come to me
big ask.
on this, the day of the red tiger.
Yeah, so no matter what I asked, like I had to pay exorbitant amounts. But here's the other thing: is like I didn't know how much money I had. I'm running a city.
Amazing.
Right?
Well,
My
it was
roots were
it was
extremely
okay that
reasonable.
wasn't prep because nobody else was offering the assassins money, were they? I mean, it was basically just steady.
I don't know who else was calling. Like, I came in the room and I saw you were in there, and like I didn't see you go into any of the other rooms. And may I say, like Discord worked amazingly well for this because Jeffro just set up a few other channels, and then we could just bop in there and invite people. Hey, do you want to go talk again? It's like Survivor. Like, hey, you want to go get some water and we'll eat, right? So I pulled him in there, and again, Cronin wasn't available because he was fighting dragons or something. And my first thing was, I want to know if anyone takes a hit out on anybody in Steddington. And so I can't remember I think I offered you 200 gold, and that was like laughable. And but you said like something like 1,000 or 2,000 gold per month, and you would give me first right of refusal. That if anybody came to you with a hit, that you would tell me and say you can buy this out, and we won't do it.
Broders, was anybody outbidding you? Was anybody bidding?
Oh God, no!
There you go. No prep wins again.
So then I was like, I got one more, but I don't know if you can do it. And he's like, well, what is it? And I was like, I want you to assassinate Elderbrecht. And so we started negotiating, and I said, all right, I'll give you the 4,000 gold either way. But if you pull it off, you won't have to pay tithe to Steddington for a year, or tribute. You won't have to pay tribute for a year. And just without batting an eye, he goes 2 years.
I almost went 5.
Yeah. And I was like, my goodness, this guy. So I was like, all right, deal. Because I didn't know if it was going to happen or not. Because everybody's like level 5. Is Elderbrecht level 5 at this point, or is he higher?
I think he's 5.
Yeah. So So we told you that, Jeffro. Before we get
Which
to
for you
the, I'll
5e
let
heads
Jeffro-
out there, that's insane. Like that's like a fifth level character is a board level world changing impact. Like if you think that like the high fantasy is stupid comment doesn't make any sense, understand the power of a fifth level character in low fantasy.
Well,
Like-
no, this was we played level 10 and level 20 in an AD&D, a crazy free for all, and this was let's see what a low level domain game would look like. How much of a domain game can you get out of fifth level? And I think we got our answer.
Yeah.
You know.
So, can I ask? Is there because I know Jeffro probably only knew about 10% of what was going on at any time because he was not able to be in the room and see all the stuff. He didn't see us partnering offer. He was just like talking to people one on one.
I would have done something with Brigadine's Belboz stuff, and I probably would have it might have been after the game, but I would have followed up on that. That's good stuff.
So, and I know Macho it had occurred to him that Assassination was on the table, and he had thought there was like a pillar out in like just this wasted land. There was like this radioactive pillar that was just like killing all the grass. And he was like, I'm going to chill out there because nobody's going there. Now, if an orc had thought, I'm going to chill out there, Billy would have been like, well, what's that? Let's fly over it, right?
No, but Elderbrecht never went. He ended up staying behind in Who Caresville.
Which is kind of funny because if he had gone to just be invisible, Belboz would have gone in there and taken his books or whatever he could lay hold of, right?
Oh, it was a lose-lose situation. Perfect.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Unless he took his
Oh
books
yeah,
with him.
He had just
Belboz was also trying to hire me to steal the books or something, I think, or to arrange a distraction to steal the books.
So was it your rat and wolf or whatever that was watching the tower, or was that his?
That's probably his. He's
All right.
magic. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, with all the stuff going on, it just Macho didn't get a chance to remember it in time to tell Jeffro, "Hey, I'm leaving." So he's just sitting there drinking his tea, just knowing that his blue dragons are causing havoc somewhere else in the map. Is there anybody with all the stuff that was going on? Is there anybody that willfully kept information from Jeffro, or were you tempted to do that? Because I want to know how that would play out.
I didn't tell him about the assassination until like we were in the room.
All right.
Like, I got a thing.
I definitely was waiting for another iteration of orders.
Okay.
So I was caught by surprise when Jeffro said, "Hey, so your elves ran into some morgue riders in the forest. How do you want to handle that?" And then a couple minutes later, he's like, "Yeah, we're not going to resolve that."
Yeah.
Well, yeah. When the keg came out, it's like it was just like I don't know. It.
Well, Jeffro, you were waiting for something big, and it just wasn't showing up for a while, right?
I just felt like the thing you're watching for as a referee is where is the action that's involving at least 3 factions.
Yeah.
If it's more than 3, then that's exciting. If it's just 2, it won't matter unless something else happens down the road from it that involves 2 or 3 other factions. So I didn't see things. I didn't see things coalescing around the elves. The party tree was where it all was, and it was just like, well, okay, we've only got 6 hours, so it's just like, all right, yeah. I probably should have gone through and talked to everybody individually one more time and before making the call, but I was just like, no, this thing over here is taking all the air out of the room. I'm just going to admit it and go deal with it.
And it was late too.
Yeah.
So, and while now that we've hashed it all out and know all the details, we had more game than we played, but I don't think we had enough game to justify bringing this entire group back a week later. Yeah. So I think it's a reasonable compromise in retrospect.
So do you consider that like a bigger success than you thought, or is it kind of disappointing that we only got one session out of it?
No, we need something that showcases what the Bro SR can do for like a convention game scenario, and I think this fits the bill. And then also, that whole you don't stop, don't quit the game while you're in the dungeon thing. The idea of like, hey, we can apply that to all this domain stuff so we can get our sort of automaticity back, where we're no longer dependent on having this exact group, all their attention for extended periods of time. So,
well, with the exception of Billy, it wasn't just no PCs in the Braunstein. It was like, we don't care about the PCs. We're doing our own thing now, which I felt like that was something that was new. Because my mindset going into it was like, patrons are there to court the PCs to make their game more meaningful and make it easier on the DM. And you were like, no, screw them. It's our time down here now.
Yeah, and I like the effect of that. The world just seems to be a more real place. There's more flavor there. A lot of stuff got fleshed out, and it's very satisfying. It didn't happen the same way as like the land grab for Brovenloft. It happened more piecemeal with like the setup, the different, taking the personalities of the group and then breaking them up into the factions, and then letting it gel, letting something happen. I don't know. I think if you want to talk role playing, and if you want to talk imagination, like just the amount of time it takes to unpack this and all the nuances and all the details, you're not going to get this level of role playing and a negotiation and interaction and titanic events. You're not going to get it with conventional techniques. It's never going to happen. The referee can't put this together. The players are like joined at the hip. They can't act independently. There's no conventional game that could compete with this. Period. It just isn't there. And the other side doesn't make session reports. They literally don't have anything worth telling.
Well, what are they going to tell? Hey, we fought through the Curse of Strahd, and like we met this gypsy lady, and she told us our fortunes. It's like that happens to everybody that plays Curse of Strahd. Like nobody's tuning in for that.
It takes as much time. It takes more time for us to unpack what happens in a Braunstein than it does to play it. Yeah. Because you have the multiple perspectives.
Well, yeah, look at it. So our show, we're at like 2 hours and 20 minutes now.
We could have played a Braunstein tonight instead of discussing it.
We could have. But would you want to do an actual play Braunstein? Would anybody watch that?
You'd need to set up 6 different streams for the different channels where people are the side channels.
You need to do it like Survivor, where you had like confessionals where it's like, okay, here's what I'm trying to do, guys.
Yes. Perfect.
Yeah.
No, you have to have somebody creating a documentary of the event while you're playing it. That's the idea.
Hey, Griff, shucks. Wow, that shut everybody up. I apologize.
Yeah, I forgot where we were at.
Well, I was just gonna say this: like, if you're talking about a one-shotter convention style game, I think you really could do this with not trying to blaspheme no prep, but if you had a one-sheeter of This Is Steddington, and it's got the forces and all that, because a lot of what Jeffro was having to do in the first 2 hours was literally tell people what their forces and stuff were. Like, I got pulled into a call like an hour in where he told me what my forces were. So there wasn't like the Braunstein wasn't 6 hours. The Braunstein was actually 4 hours.
I had to make sure that we had a scenario as we went through that. So
which is like, exactly. But I'm just saying that if you like that is the downside, but at the same time, even if you just went through and the prep you did was no prep equivalent, where you just go through and you say, okay, I've got 5 towns, I'm gonna this is gonna be giants, elves, humans, thieves, and miscellaneous, and then you do your rolling tables and you just have that on a one sheeter. This is who they are. This is who you're playing. I think you could hand that out at a convention and people could hash this out in 4 hours. Because once we actually got to start playing, it was about 4 hours of the actual wheeling and dealing and all of the actual talking. Most of it was actually the party part, which was kind of fun because I got to come in, meet these guys, just talk, shoot the bull. And then, as that kind of wove in and we got, I guess, kind of got familiar with the group, people started the conversation started spinning off into, okay, well, what are we up to? Like, as people started, especially as people started coming out of the Jeffro room, knowing what the hell they had to work with, they're like, okay, now I'm ready to deal,
Yeah. Well, another part of it was the idea that you may not be playing the same faction the next time you play, right? Like the idea, I think the way Jeffro put it was, after we're done, we put our toys back in the box. And the same way with a Broasar campaign with the players, you run with whoever you get the next time. Whoever's able to show up and make it, they get to play with those parts. And so that was kind of why I went so overboard on my prep, is I was thinking I'm designing this such that I wanted to create a document that if someone else was going to be Steadington next week, I could hand it over and say, here's what's going on, here's what I made. Feel free to jettison whatever you want, but like, here was my idea for not just for playing it in a Braunstein, but if someone wanted to DM in there and say, all right, the big players aren't going to crack this nut. The PCs are going to need to infiltrate and find ways to upset the balance in a way that a faction player couldn't. So that was kind of why I built all that boring stuff, was so that I could have something to hand over if someone else was going to be them next time and I was going to be Elderbrecht or whatever.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody wants to actually play in this area at all. There's at this time, there's no interest in it.
I do. Like, you got to remember, Jeffro, I started when this started. Like, that's where Foam the Gnome came about. I didn't get to see any of the stuff you guys did before. I was like, why are these guys all sad? And they were like, we had the universe and now we're down here in Mudcoreville. Like,
that's my experience of the year, is that nobody cares about this stuff. But like, when you hear everybody talking about, no, I must have the Naugahyde couch. Like, it's like, okay, all this stuff, like, and my cities have the worst names. I mean,
the fighting is so intense because the stakes are so low.
But no, like Shadow over Sajenka is like making fun of my names of my cities, like, it's because it's bad world building. But like, when you're back to like, when we take the game seriously, though, like, the game is very serious. It's very.
The game part itself is serious.
People care whether Who Caresville is human supremacist or overrun with demi-humans. That's a very pressing issue that keeps us up at night.
How do we overrun Who Caresville with demi-humans? How do we get the round ears out? Oh man. All right, well, let's finish the story for those that don't know what happened, and I'll let Evan tell the tale. So famously, Jeffro said, we've got this battle to fight, and then there's the icing on the cake. And we fought the battle, and then what happened?
Well, first, just before this happens, you just hear this innocent little voice from the back of the Discord channel.
Just
Macho Man off the go, Jeffro, what's the icing on the cake? Take it away, buddy. Take it away. Tell your story. 'Cause the way you did it was so fucking funny.
Yeah.
Like, I got a thing, and then you hear a flip. The dice chat. Oh my god.
So I at some point, I think I get into a side chat with Jeffro, and I tell him what's going on, and so Macho, who playing Agrabect. Is that what
Elderbrecht.
Elderbrecht.
It's okay if everyone gets those names wrong.
He's dead now anyway, so doesn't matter.
Wait till you find out the name of the captain of the guard.
So he says his little. There's icing on the cake, or what's the icing on the cake?
The icing on the cake, Jeffro.
And I just say, I've got a thing. /R D100, And 01 pops up in the chat.
One.
Well,
Yeah.
why is that significant? Like for those that don't play
Okay,
first
so-
edition, what are we rolling
Okay,
on?
so I'm rolling on the assassination table, which is you do this and you have carried out killing somebody.
You get a percentage.
You get a percentage. It's not a regular to hit thing. It's a percentage. If you succeed, if you roll under the percentage, you succeed and you kill the guy. If you don't, you're probably dead.
Do you
Because
remember
they
what you
caught you.
needed to roll to pull it off?
No, I do not, because I had no idea what level Elderbrecht was.
Do you remember, Jeffro?
I'm thinking it was like a 45% chance.
Yeah,
That
it was-
sounds right. That
was
sounds right
probably-
for level 5.
Yeah, a level 5 assassin assassinating a level 5 character is roughly 45. I think that's probably accurate, but I didn't know what level he was.
It didn't
So,
matter
like-
what the
So it
difference
didn't matter because a 1 popped up.
was.
and-
0-1.
The best number you could
Wow.
get.
The best number you could get, and therefore Elderbrecht was dead, just like that, and we carried that off. And
The biggest good guy piece was just taken off the board. And for those of us on the bad guy side that had like just lost bigly, like it just felt so surprising and satisfying way to end the night.
see, I had no idea how the sides were lined up. I didn't know who was good
You're
guys
like,
and
I got
who
a
was
job
bad
to do
guys.
and I did
I
it.
assumed. I assumed as the assassin chief, I was probably kind of on the bad guy's side, but you know,
It's fair.
I
it's
could.
fair.
I was perfectly willing to be used for good. Did I get my gold? Yes, I'm good. I'm happy.
Gold is good.
Amazing.
I don't have to pay tribute.
Well, you know, as much as it is sad that Eldenbrecht died, I would not have won if he was not assassinated. So, inadvertently, you know, I want to thank you for leading me to victory.
Well, you're welcome. I will call upon you in some point in the future.
And
Oh,
you got
my
the girl
favorite.
at the end.
Oh, I got the girl, Eldenbrecht's daughter. Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it all plays together, right? The way that he got Elderbrecht's daughter was he killed more foxes than Brigadine's guy did, right?
No, it was
Brigadier also sucked at dancing.
it was dancing. Brigadine was going to charm her by dancing.
How did it come
And-
down to dancing? I wonder.
Yeah, he was going to charm her by dancing, and this is when Chaz sent the foxes to talk to Goldie or whatever. And I was like, "Oh, fox pelts! Women love fox pelts or whatever." And
And that's what ejected Goldenrod from the game. It's like, my last chance to get out of jail is these foxes, and you're like, I'm gonna kill them and skin them.
Yes.
oh yeah,
Give
and then
them to the girl.
apparently he had some moral conundrum with it or something, and said it was murder hoboing, even though I was killing foxes, which have a list for prices of pelts in the DMG. So it's clearly
He was trying to
labeled
get
as
himself
treasure.
out of, like Jeffro. There was gonna be like a heist mission, right, where his buddies sprung him from jail. If he'd have just hung in there a bit longer,
Well, I mean, like, when you set someone aside and everybody else gets to play, sometimes they do what they want to do, and it's not what you think that they should want to do. You know.
well, he had another character, but that character died spectacularly
Oh yeah.
due to stupidity. And it would, and how Huxtable was there to see it. But anyway, so the assassination goes off, and because Billy has in downtime been killing foxes and giving their pelts to Elderbrecht's daughter, which like way back at the beginning, that was the whole reason to go into the dungeon, was like whoever brings the most like crap out of Jeffro's parents' basement is gonna win the daughter of the chief. And Billy did it. And when Elderbrecht buys it, Billy marries his daughter. He becomes Billy Brecht the First, the Lord Mayor of Who Caresville, and he won Trollopulous 2023.
Yeah, baby.
The human supremacist killing foxes in the woods.
I mean, and this was like the most like this was the most low effort Trollopulous campaign in history. You know, there's the least amount of appendix in. There's the least amount of scenario design. The least. All of this was run with 2 one-page dungeons.
Oh
you know,
man.
that were just awful. The worst.
And it was the best D&D that I have ever played.
Same.
Yeah, but like we had a scenario. We had dragons. We had dungeons. We had evil wizards that were sending squirrel spies around. We had assassins.
Giant burrow owls.
We had the red kegger. I think we got the whole package. We got the whole package, and then everything that was like a loose end of the campaign. Like we got a great finish for the year. Like we could walk away from this for like several months now and revisit it down the road. And
I haven't stopped thinking about it. I don't know about you guys.
Oh no, it's still on my mind.
What this feels like to me is I don't know, just as a greater overall narrative, it feels like a great like the vibe of it hits like a second like the end of the second act of a movie, where it's like the good guys get a minor victory with a few forces that the bad guys, like an earnestly not meaningful amount of forces that got killed. And then they lose their big guy, and now you've got this power struggle. You've got this romantic kind of vibe with Billy being this hero, this fox hunting hero that got the girl at the end. So there's things that are looking up. There's things that are looking like shit, and it's kind of in a really cool spot where it's like if you just time capsuled that, you could come back to this at any point, and I think people would be willing to, like, I don't know, especially for the, like, I guess you call it like mudcore, like down and dirty. It's a shitty world kind of vibe. I don't know. It's something that I would love to roll a character up and play. Like I said, I haven't gotten to actually be a character in one of these games yet. This is my only experience, but it was
just broke out of mudcore. You got all these third level guys. It was like, shoot, it's gone enough now. I have to draw the freaking map. Dang it, I got to draw the map now.
So atomized to do this, if someone else wanted to do something like this, at the very least, you need a map, you need factions, you need force lists for the factions,
right?
And then just crazy people willing to
I
give it a
would
shot.
add one more thing.
Okay.
That was touched on earlier. Win conditions. Maybe not even like win conditions. What is your goal? Like when they're coming in, like, so, because some of you guys expressed, we didn't know. We just knew that like the one place had the monsters and the other places didn't. And I felt like maybe with just that, maybe the people that felt like they didn't have any direction or felt like the elves being out yonder or Berkelberg being up there would have gave you guys a little bit more direction. And it doesn't have to be like a clear win conditions. You're like, this is what's going on. You want to achieve something like this or get some here.
A minor goal, but also the ability to reject it and supplant it later.
Yes,
I want to pursue this or not.
That's like Dubs did that. Dubs had a lot of points that he handed out to people for accomplishing various things, and I'm too lazy to do that.
To simplify it though, like
it works
just
fine. Play the role. Play a role. We don't need all that game design stuff that Alexander McCrisp makes. We don't need it.
It's all wrapped up in the map anyway.
You need to play your role. If you play your role, if you play your role, and there's independent people acting under a fog of war, then something interesting will come out of it every time. And we just need enough to figure out the war game that happens if it happens. All
right. Let's go around the room one more time and just everyone share your takeaways. Like, what did you learn through this experience or through the last, it's a new year, right? We can say, what did I learn in Trollopulous in 2023? Or what did I learn from this Battle Braunstein that I can take forward? We'll start with Dornell since I haven't heard from you in a while.
Hey, man. I could do a whole Geek Gab show on what I learned in Trollopulous 2023, but I'll say that this was the solution that, or it was a solution that we've been looking for to that dungeon master problem. You want to be able to generate verisimilitude by maintaining a healthy living world with faction play. At a small scale, everybody knows about the factions in the keep on the borderlands and the caves of chaos.
Yeah.
You can't realistically run a whole world like that, or even a region, and get interesting or satisfying results, except for maybe a single table of 4 players, which is conventional play. How do you get that large scale multi-faction regional war game that the Wisconsin guys of old got every week in their wargaming club without needing to have your buddies over 3 nights a week and leveling up these characters and building up their own factions? We found an answer. It was fun. It was easy to put together. A lot of groundwork was required, but you can easily extrapolate that into, BDubs already did it. He's like, let me use these factions. Let me add a couple of things, some problems I saw. And he made his own flavor. You can do it too. Smashing success.
Right on. All right, John Dacre, takeaways.
Takeaways. 2 of them. First of all, in a Jeffro dungeon, don't touch anything, just touch yourself.
Lay on hands, baby.
Yeah, the cure light wounds on yourself in the corner a little bit.
And secondly, don't let your preconceived notions about a troop type determine your response to it. I was really surprised at how well the giants were at attacking the dragons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think some of these things you just have to, you can't theory craft or look at numbers. I think sometimes you just have to sit down and roll dice to really see what your troops are capable of. And those are my 2 big takeaways for 2023.
Rock on, man. All right, Cronin, you're up. 2 takeaways. Well, you don't have to have 2 takeaways.
Honestly, man, it all simplifies down to the map. Because just like in real life, geography is destiny, right? Like in Trollopulous, in this section, part of the reason why all of the bullshit going on with the giants being able to have the power that they have, and the reason why Cronin thought that Doucheland was going to be a huge problem if he left the territory was because of the geography. They had a little bottleneck of nice travelable territory right down to the city that they could drive all of their nerds and forces to. So if you just have a map and you decide you throw some interesting shit on that map, or you roll some interesting shit on the hexes on that map, then you can, like, all of the rest of it can come from there. Who's going to live in the shitty fog-ridden mountains that's neighbors of swamp? Vampire clan, sure. Like, whatever. Like, you just go from there. It's very simple to do, and like I said, these guys have shown me an entire new way to play that I've been cannibalizing my 5e game slowly but surely, and like boiling my players like frogs slowly into a Bro SR style game, and they're loving every bit of it. At least the elements that I'm able to make mesh. So it's been a joy all the way around, and thanks for having me.
Right on. Jeffro, takeaways?
Oh man, no. Yeah, just seeing it all come together, man. I don't know. I just love the all the little bits, stuff I didn't even know people cared about influence the scenario. Stuff that was put there 6 months ago, stuff that happened in sessions 3 months ago. Like everything that ever got imagined matters all at once. And then when we fleshed it out just a little bit more, I don't know. I really like the I obviously like the low effort part because I'm the laziest dungeon master in the Bro SR. But having the alloy, the superior alloy that Gygax talks about in the preface to the DMG, like having Brian come in and be the Doucheland, like that's set what Doucheland is forever. And I couldn't even remember who Edie Broders was. I mean, I knew him as a Twitter handle, but like, no, his personality is like he completed this thing that was just a an index card worth of notes, but the different personalities. I want to say, like, I mean, I've had an ongoing fight with the big genius DM, the big brain guys who imagine the perfect world, and I'm just some dummy who follows the rules. And now, no, I mean, like, literally, that's it. But delegating the world model, distributing, making the world model work across your gaming group is it creates such a more dynamic world than if one person was doing it. And it's amazing that this method also creates a party game, a low effort party game. And even for also all the big war game battles that you always thought you should play with D&D, but it never actually happened. Those happen too. So it's just it's the royal flush of gaming. I want to take a moment to thank myself now for being such a visionary, to be able to see all of the problems of the OSR and invert them and turn them into an opportunity. There's really only one genius in RPGs that could do something like that. Thank you, Jeffro.
Well said. Thank you, Jeffro. All right, Evan. Well, before we move on, though, I do want to say, personally, I think it was very courageous and brave of you, especially with how we had been burned with the last guy that we brought into the campaign and how he just flamed out and kind of, I don't know how much of a hit you took for that, because I know you put a lot into your DMing. I know you say you're lazy, but I know that it matters to you and you want to get it right and you want to provide a good experience. I think it was awesome of you to invite the two new guys that I hadn't played with before and open yourself up like that and take the chance. I think it worked out amazingly well. I'm glad I got to know you guys. I'm glad I got to play with you. So
there's only so much damage they could do in 6 hours.
Challenge accepted.
Are you challenging me? I've been banned in 6 seconds flat. This is my 15th alt account. No.
All right, Evan, takeaways.
Takeaways. So this is the year that my 2-year RoSR style 5e game ended because I was just done with it, because I'm done with 5e, and this showed me the way forward. Holy crap. I am probably going to be spinning up a local club for friends' kids and church kids and stuff like that early this spring.
Rock on.
And it will be very bro-SR-y.
I'm looking forward to the session reports.
We'll see if I actually manage to write session reports. I am the worst bro-SR DM for writing session reports. I think I wrote my last one 6 months into that 2-year campaign. But we'll see if I manage it. But there will be regular battle Braunsteins though. That's because it's wild.
Heck yeah, man! A BroSR Bro blogs receipts.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have heard my rap video.
Oh, and I'm just going to point out.
You look like the kind of guy that have a rap video.
Yeah.
I just want to point out that everything that people argue with Jeffro about on Twitter, he answered for me in like 40 DMs 2 years ago.
Hmm.
So I don't blame.
I don't
him for
even
being
remember that.
Oh, it wasn't even on. It wasn't even on this account. It was on my football account, like my account for talking about football.
Right on.
Oh.
Well, so there, yeah, that's one of the things that has been surprising to me is the amount of pushback you get, and I don't know if anyone can explain it, other than maybe people aren't as certain about their play style as they claim to be, and when they see a bunch of absolute knuckleheads just having the time of our life with the stupidest crap you could come up with, it makes them uneasy and they got to defend. But I might be, that might not be the most charitable.
The anger is the tell. The anger is the tell.
All right, Bob, takeaways.
All right. The champs coming in at the end.
Yeah.
It was a great year for me. 2023 will go down in infamy.
That it will.
When I started as Billy, I made a straight decision that I was going to impact this campaign in a major way. I really didn't want to let the bros down because it was the first time starting from a level 1 character. I wanted to prove myself.
Right
I
on.
feel like I more than did that. And I feel like it was a great victory. And everything I've learned, I've brought to my face-to-face group table, and they're loving it. They've never seen D&D like it. They now, in real life, they're going up to people and bashing them for playing 5e. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And, you know, I got a bunch of good players, but I plan on trying to do a in-person Battle Braunstein, which it's slowly in the process. I'm getting more players to get on a patron level. Once I get 4, I have 3. Once I get 4, I could pull in a random, just as a random faction or whatever, and I'd actually am going to try it in person. Set it up, have different rooms where people can discuss and everything. And hopefully that works out great. But it was a great year, and I recommend anyone trying this, playing the Bro SR style of play. You will see the results we talk about, and you will thank us and thank Jeffro later.
Yes, absolutely.
Right on, man. I got to go after that one. So my takeaways, the big things I learned this year, and especially with the Battle Braunstein. Well, the first one was how things like playing this way, not every session is crazy and everyone's laughing their head off and totally shocked and can't believe what's happening. There will be a bunch of sessions in a row that feel small and mundane and disconnected. And then there will come a moment where it all just comes together and just takes off like a jet plane. And stuff that had no meaning, stuff you thought was stupid. A couch? Really, Jeffro? A couch? Yeah, Jeffro calls it the convergence. And like, now people are like, I will go to war for that Nagahide couch. It must be mine. Oh, yes, it must be mine. Right? He probably would have loved us to be that passionate about it when he first said, hey, it's a couch. We were all like, I'm sorry, what did you say, Jeffro? I didn't want to step on your comment.
3 different factions were negotiating about the couch, and I didn't even know it.
See, how do we win the battles online when this stuff we care about is so stupid?
Well, it's what
You know,
people
you
don't
got-
realize, and what people lose is in the game nowadays is that it's the stakes, man. Like people are
You
sick
got-
and tired of in their movies and in their media and in their D&D having to save the fucking world. And you know what? Some people just want to go get that damn Nagahide couch for the love of God because men have died and bled for it. And you know what? Fuck it. We've worked for it and we deserve it, man.
And besides,
that's-
it really
that's the kind of
ties the
stuff
room
that-
together. I got you, Cass.
Oh, that was great. That was so legendary. I just forgot everything else I was gonna say. Get the couch, get the girl, get the kingdom. Well done, Billy. So aside from the convergence thing, which I think is awesome, but it takes the players have to trust the process and they have to go through those few boring things. In my Bro SR video, I talked about how like a writer has a net behind their head, and different things just collect in it. And the stories come when two separate things connect and spark interest. And you're like, there's something here. And I feel like the same thing happens at the group level with this kind of play, where it is stupid and mundane. And you can talk to people that are like, well, no, I'm not going to go through 3 boring sessions before it takes off. I'm going to plan, and I'm going to prep, and I'm going to write an awesome story that has a building action and a climax and a denouement, and they're going to love everything I prepared for them.
And then it's going to suck.
And then you're going to burn out because they don't really care, but you're working harder and harder to make it more and more appealing. And then Jeffro comes in here, is like, I don't know, you got 20 orcs. And it's like, this is the most compelling thing I've ever played. The other thing is, the promise of tabletop role-playing games is the you can do anything, that like agency that nothing else has. That like the best video games are like the Jets in the meme with Invincible, where they're like, look what they have to do to mimic a fraction of our power, right? The thing that I like about this Battle Braunstein is it's the other side of that coin, that you can do anything, but also anything can happen. And it's not limited to what the dungeon master can think up or dream up. It's this weird interaction where like neurons firing in this psychotic brain, just hallucinating madly. And it's just stupid stuff, but it matters to us because it's memories that we have that can eclipse real memories as far as like the joy and the fun that we had together with it. So that's my takeaways. Man, I did not expect this to go 3 hours, but I have it flew by for me. I don't know if it flew by for our viewers.
Oh yeah, it flew by
like,
for me.
Oh, and did I need to go?
There's like one left.
Yeah. This is Dunder Moose. I'm used to having those kind of numbers, right? Who is Dunder Moose? I really appreciate you guys coming and spending so much time with me. And I mean, just a testament to how fun it was. We spent 6 hours playing it. Jeffro's probably talked about it for more than 6 hours now, if you total up all the shows.
It was a new idea. How often is there a new idea at RPGs for real?
Right.
I mean, seriously.
Well, that was on Twitter. You told me the most Jeffro thing I'd ever heard when I was like, well, should I do a Battle Braunstein to start it and then play, or should I do 30 sessions first like y'all did and then have a Battle Braunstein? And you were like, do something no one's ever done and then crow about it online. That is the essence of Jeffro. Do something no one's ever thought of and then call them all stupid for not having thought of it. Right. So it's been a pleasure. I know we're not everybody's cup of tea. I know that people get insanely mad about the stuff we say and do. For those of you that are curious, for those of you that are like adjacent, for those of you that are like maybe disagree, like I really have come to appreciate Black Lodge games, because they have a different take on stuff, and they will tell you and they will stand their ground, but they're here for it. They're here for the conversation. They encouraged me to start my channel and stuff. So
Right. He's going to the gym and he's cramming people in lockers. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chad's energy right there.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is this stuff is good for you. Watch my Bro SR video. I did my first workout, like weightlifting workout today in like years. I worked all pandemic with a treadmill right next to my desk, and I never got on it. And I still, just coming down the stairs to do the show, my legs are like, oh, what did you do? I was like deadlifting and reverse lunges and stuff. But like, it's good for your body. It's good for your brain. It's good for your friendships. And yeah, I guess I'm done buttering everybody up. Thanks for watching. This is Dunder Moose. For my literal dozen of viewers, and we will see you next time.
Sayonara.